The days of living with the beautiful campus Belle. Oh, it feels so good, don't stop, keep going. Oh, it hurts. Use more force. Girls, it's just a back rub, do you have to shout so loudly? Chapter 1, The Wife Given for Free. What are you doing, Shangguan Mai? Why are you taking off your clothes? Inside the room, the girl mischievously blinked, then removed another piece of clothing. Instantly, her unique fragrance became even more intense. Xiao Chini, didn't I say it? Today, I'm giving my body to you. No, absolutely not. Shangguan Mai, I've told you before, only when we're married will I accept your body. This time, the girl remained silent and quietly removed another piece of clothing. Now, she was only left with one last piece of clothing, and her fiery figure was completely revealed. Although Xiao Chini didn't want to accept Shangguan Mai's body this early, as a man, his instincts made him swallow nervously when he saw her amazing figure. Bang! 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 However, just at this moment, an urgent knock on the door startled Xiao Chini. It was late at night, and Shangguan Mai was only wearing one piece of clothing. Who could it be knocking? Before Xiao Chini could respond, the door was kicked open by several people from the outside. Colonel Luo. Seeing the people who entered, Xiao Chini was slightly shocked. Xiao Chini was an orphan. After graduating from middle school, he chose to join the army. In just 3 years, with his harder-than-usual training, Xiao Chini became the leader of the East Sea Military District's Dragon Special Forces, the youngest king of soldiers in history. Shangguan Mai was the most beautiful military flower of the East Sea Military District and Xiao Chini's girlfriend. Their relationship was a well-known love story in the military. The person entering now was Xiao Chini's superior, Colonel Luo Binghua. What's going on here? A man and a woman alone, and Shangguan Mai, why are you dressed like this? Colonel Luo Binghua looked at the scene in the room with furrowed brows, clearly not pleased. Xiao Chini was about to explain, but Shangguan Mai suddenly started crying. Shangguan Mai, don't cry. If something's wrong, just say it. Colonel Luo is here, he'll take care of it. A young man in military uniform, holding a gun, comforted her from behind Colonel Luo. That's right, Shangguan Mai, don't be afraid. Tell us what happened, and I promise I'll make things right. Colonel Luo's tone was stern as his gaze towards Xiao Chini grew colder. Colonel Luo, Xiao Chini isn't he what you think? He didn't force himself on me. Shangguan Mai sobbed, her voice shaky. By now, Xiao Chini still hadn't figured out what had happened. Just moments ago, Shangguan Mai had said she was giving her body to him, and she was the one who had removed her clothes. How had it suddenly turned into him trying to force himself on her? Colonel Luo, I didn't do anything. I'm being wronged. Xiao Chini protested. Take him away, to the interrogation room. Before Xiao Chini could argue further, Colonel Luo's command cut him off. As soon as the order was given, several people rushed up and grabbed Xiao Chini. No, he couldn't let them take him to the interrogation room. Even if he managed to get out, this would be a permanent stain on his military career. After all, Xiao Chini was the king of soldiers. Even if they came at him together, they wouldn't be able to beat him. But just then, a gun was pressed against Xiao Chini's head. Xiao Chini turned his head to see Colonel Luo grinning sinisterly, holding the gun to his head. Xiao Chini, attempting to force yourself on Shangguan Mai, assaulting a comrade, and disobeying military orders. I hereby officially announce your expulsion from the military. Hearing Colonel Luo's deep voice, Xiao Chini felt completely despairing. No, I'm not leaving. You're framing me. I'm going to the military department, I'm going to sue you in the military court. Though he still didn't understand what had happened, one thing was clear to Xiao Chini: he had been set up. Suddenly, in the midst of his shouting, someone from the group threw lime powder into his face. The lime burned his eyes, and before he could react, something heavy struck his head, knocking him unconscious. Gradually, Xiao Chini regained consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself lying on a bed in an unfamiliar place. He had no idea where he was. Why am I not wearing any clothes? Wait, my eyes didn't they get filled with lime? How come my eyes are fine now? As Xiao Chini puzzled over this, he made another surprising discovery. There was a beautiful woman lying next to him on the bed. And she was completely naked. Waking up to such a scene, Xiao Chini was momentarily stunned. But then, recalling how Shangguan Mai had framed him, Xiao Chini started to feel uneasy. Could this be another trap set by Shang Wanmai? No, he had to help this woman put on clothes. As Xiao Chini sat up and looked at the woman, he noticed that she was now wearing clothes. He shook his head and looked again. This time, she was wearing a wedding dress. Just now, he had only noticed she was naked, but now he saw she was actually wearing a wedding dress. He was wearing a suit, and she was in a wedding dress. They were both lying on the same bed. This meant he had somehow married this woman. As he realized this, Xiao Chini thought, is this because of the lime incident? Did it cause some sort of mutation in my genes? He still didn't understand why he was here, but since he couldn't figure it out, Xiao Chini decided to stop worrying and started observing his surroundings. He wasn't without clothes, he was wearing a suit. And the woman was wearing a wedding dress. Had they just gotten married? A strange thought filled Xiao Chini's mind as he tried to make sense of everything. Chapter 2, The Rich Second-Generation Son-in-Law. Xiao Chini couldn't help but laugh. In such a short time, so many things had happened. His girlfriend, Shang Wanmai, had inexplicably framed him, and now he had been expelled from the army. To make matters worse, he had somehow developed X-ray vision and, without understanding how, had ended up married to the beautiful woman lying next to him. Xiao Chini gazed out the window at the sky and seemed to spot Shang Wanmai's familiar face in the clouds. Shang Wanmai, I'll come back. This time, you've framed me, but next time, you'll pay 100 times for what you've done. Xiao Chini muttered under his breath, his fist clenched so tightly that his nails nearly dug into his flesh. Shang Wanmai, who is that? At that moment, a crisp and sweet voice snapped Xiao Chini out of his thoughts. He turned to see the girl who had been lying on the bed, now awake. Hey, did you hear me? I'm asking, who is Shang Wanmai? The girl pouted, her big eyes filled with curiosity and gossip. It's none of your business. Shang Wanmai was a sore spot for Xiao Chini, and he didn't want to talk about her. Hey. Who is Shang Wanmai? Your girlfriend. The girl pressed, her curiosity growing. I think you should tell me who you are, and why I'm here, Xiao Chini responded coldly, feeling a bit irritated. The girl seemed intent on gossiping about his life, yet she hadn't even explained herself. This is the Yin family's residence in Donghai City. I'm Yin Meng, the eldest daughter of the Yin family. Got it. The girl spoke with a sense of superiority, her tone radiating the confidence of a wealthy person. I'm not interested in that. I just want to know what happened between you and me, Xiao Chini said bluntly. What do you mean, what happened? The girl blinked, clearly puzzled. Oh, I mean, did we, you know? Xiao Chini struggled to phrase it. That, what's that? Oh, you mean, you're a pervert? The girl's expression shifted from sweet to annoyed as she glared at him. Xiao Chini let out a long breath, relieved. Good, so nothing happened. Can you tell me what's going on with the clothes we're wearing? Xiao Chini asked, his curiosity piqued. Bang! Before the girl could respond, the door opened, and a middle-aged man entered the room. Yin Meng, you're awake, the man said, smiling kindly. Uncle Chen, the girl greeted him politely. The middle-aged man waved his hand dismissively and then turned to Xiao Chini. I'll answer the young man's questions. Yin Meng nodded, allowing him to speak. Hello, young man, I'm Chen Ping. You can call me Uncle Chen, the man introduced himself. Xiao Chini didn't respond immediately but was pinched by the girl. He rubbed the spot where she pinched him and shouted, what was that for? Call him Uncle Chen, Yin Meng said, her eyes narrowing with a reprimanding look. Under her stern gaze, Xiao Chini reluctantly addressed the man, Uncle Chen. Yin Meng, stop it. You should thank this young man. If it weren't for him, we would have been sleeping on the streets by now, Chen Ping said, his tone mild. Xiao Chini was confused. He had no idea what had happened after he fainted. Young man, this is the Yin family residence in Donghai City. Have you heard of the Yin family? Xiao Chini shook his head. He was an orphan from a rural area and had been in the army since graduating middle school. He knew nothing about Donghai City, the largest city in Donghai province. That's okay. Let me explain, Chen Ping said, before beginning to tell Xiao Chini about the Yin family. The Yin family was not a small family in Donghai City. On the list of the wealthiest families in the city, the Yin family ranked 10th. However, not long before Yin Meng's parents died in a car accident, the Yin family's company, Yin Enterprises, faced malicious competition from the Jin family, another powerful family in Donghai City. Although the Jin family wasn't much stronger than the Yin family, whenever the top 10 families of Donghai City were re-elected, the Jin family always lost to the Yin family, which created a long-standing feud between the two. After the Jin family's aggressive tactics, Yin Meng's father, Yin Qinyar, took decisive action and tried to defeat the Jin family. However, for reasons unknown, the Jin family seemed to go all out, attempting to destroy Yin Enterprises. Yin Qinyar, in desperation, poured all of the Yin family's assets into the company to turn the tide. With this new capital, Yin Enterprises had a chance to defeat the Jin family, but before it could be executed, Yin Qinyar and his wife, Jiang Hanmai, tragically died in a car accident. With the loss of its backbone, Yin Enterprises collapsed, and the company's stock began to plummet. Within a short period, the Yin family's company was on the verge of bankruptcy. As if to compound the family's misfortune, Yin Qinyar's estranged brother, Yin Haijiao, who had been abroad for several years, suddenly returned. His intent was clear: he wanted to take control of the family's wealth. Seeing that Yin Meng was still young and a girl, Yin Haijiao hoped to marry her off and seize the family fortune for himself. Fortunately, Chen Ping, the Yin family's butler, had secretly protected Yin Meng, preventing any harm from coming to her. "Young man, I saw you wearing a military uniform out in the fields. You're a soldier, right? I implore you to protect Yin Meng," Chen Ping said, his tone serious. Xiao Chini was still confused, not understanding why Chen Ping was saying all this. "Young man, let me be clear. Last night, Yin Haijiao caused trouble again. While you were unconscious, I staged a scene and told them that you and Yin Meng were engaged, that you were the son-in-law of the Yin family. So now, even if you don't want to protect Yin Meng, Yin Haijiao will still come after you," Chen Ping explained. Hearing this, Xiao Chini felt a surge of frustration. So, after he fainted, he had been used as a pawn in someone else's game. However, after a moment's thought, Xiao Chini realized that he had no place to return to, given his expulsion from the army. He was effectively homeless. But if he agreed to protect Yin Meng, he would not only gain a wife for free but also become a rich son-in-law. When he considered the benefits, it wasn't a bad deal. "Uncle Chen, I agree to protect Yin Meng. What do I need to do?" Xiao Chini said, finally making up his mind. Chapter 3, The Rogue. Although he was surprised by how quickly Xiao Chini agreed, now that he had, Uncle Chen felt much more at ease. Their home is relatively safe, the only dangerous place is the school. School? Xiao Chini furrowed his brows, as though he had just thought of something. Yes, the school. Yin Meng is a senior in Class 3 at Donghai High School. She goes there every day. Your task is to protect her at school. Uncle Chen, I can protect her at school, but are you really suggesting that Yin Meng should have a bodyguard following her around all day? Won't that be too conspicuous? Of course not. That's why I've already arranged your identity. Now you are a student in Class 3 of Donghai High School as well. Xiao Chini looked at the somewhat stooped, elderly man in front of him, who appeared to be confused and aging, yet was shrewd and cunning. In the end, he said nothing to oppose the plan. Actually, the real reason Xiao Chini agreed so quickly was because he had another motive. He wanted to get back into the army and seek revenge, but since he had been expelled, normal methods wouldn't work. His only option was to use the college entrance exam to get into a military academy. A cool breeze blew, and the leaves swayed. Even though it was already September and the weather had started turning autumnal, it was still quite hot. September, the season when schools open. Xiao Chini brushed the dust off his uniform and walked straight into the classroom of Donghai High School, Class 3. He opened his eyes wide, carefully observing every student in the classroom. After all, these people would be his classmates. The students in the classroom were equally curious about this new student who had suddenly transferred in. Xiao Chini walked slowly into the classroom and sat next to Yin Meng. He became her desk mate. His actions immediately caused all the male students in the class to glare at him. Donghai High School had a school beauty ranking, and Yin Meng ranked 10th on that list. Yin Meng was the goddess in the hearts of many boys at Donghai High School, especially among the boys in Class 3. Such a goddess was considered sacred and untouchable. In the class, whoever became her desk mate would provoke anger, which was why Yin Meng had always sat alone. But now, Xiao Chenyi, a newcomer, had sat beside her, which the boys naturally couldn't accept. "Hey, this seat isn't for you." One of the more impatient students was the first to speak up. Xiao Chenyi remained silent, looking at Yin Meng. He believed she would help resolve this trivial matter. "It's fine, sit here." Sure enough, Yin Meng didn't disappoint him. She spoke up and resolved the situation. "Yang Fan, all of you have desk mates. I'm the only one sitting alone in the class. Since there's a new student, what's wrong with him sitting next to me?" Once Yin Meng spoke, the boy named Yang Fan had nothing more to say. Just as Xiao Chenyi sat down, his peripheral vision caught sight of a few strange-looking men outside the classroom, peering through the window. He also noticed that when Yin Meng saw those men, her expression visibly changed to one of fear, and her eyes seemed to shimmer with tears. Xiao Chenyi stayed quiet, secretly observing. Could it be that these men, who clearly didn't look like good people, had come to cause trouble for Yin Meng? After a while, the men, after pointing and whispering, walked into the classroom, and it was clear that their target was Yin Meng. As soon as the delinquents entered, Yin Meng became even more frightened. She lowered her head and said nothing. "Hey, sweetheart, why are you still in school? Come on, let us go home." In the classroom, no one dared to speak. The students widened their eyes, filled with curiosity and fear, staring at the delinquents. The man who spoke was clearly the leader of the group. He stood at the front of the gang, and a small-time thug quickly pulled out a chair for him to sit on. The leader leered at Yin Meng with a greedy, unabashed expression. "Sweetheart, why bother with high school? Come home with me and be my wife." Xiao Chenyi sneered inwardly. This thug leader, though not particularly skilled, acted like a bandit chief demanding Yin Meng to be his wife. What era was this? There was no such thing as a wife of a bandit anymore. Rogue. Yin Meng's tears finally fell as she could no longer hold them back. She spat out these two words with bitterness. "Har har har, rogue, rogue. Thanks for the compliment, sister-in-law." The leader's thug, a skinny man, grinned at Yin Meng's words. He didn't care about being called a rogue. He shamelessly accepted the compliment, demonstrating just how much of a fit he was for his role as a thug. "Who are you guys, what do you want?" At that moment, a school security guard entered the classroom. Although the guard's face was filled with fear, he still tried to muster some courage, reminding himself that protecting the students was his duty. "Get lost, do you want to die?" The skinny thug barked at the security guard, causing the latter to take a few steps back, frightened. "What's going on? Don't scare the guard. We're here on official business. We even have a legal contract to protect us, so don't make us look like the bad guys." Saying this, the leader pulled a piece of paper from the briefcase of one of the thugs and slowly walked toward the security guard, putting on a smile. "Brother security, I'm Xie Jinfei. We're not here to cause trouble. The thing is, this young lady's father borrowed 5 million from us for business, and we heard that her parents died in a car accident recently. So, we came to collect the debt. If you want to get involved, maybe you can help her pay off the debt." The security guard, who had been timid to begin with, hesitated. He had only stepped up to do his job, but now he was being told that if he intervened, he would have to pay 5 million. With his meager salary, he had no way to cover such a large sum. His legs started to wobble with fear. Chapter 4: A Hero Saves a Beauty. The security guard swallowed, wiped the sweat from his face, and then backed out of the classroom. Seeing the security guard leave obediently, Xie Jinfei turned around, changed his previous look, and turned into a bandit-like person. Xie Jinfei slapped the paper on Yin Meng's desk. "Yin Meng, you said last time that I didn't bring the original IOU with me. You didn't believe me based on just a copy. Now show me clearly that this is the original IOU." Xie Jinfei sat back in the chair and continued speaking. "It's clearly written on this IOU that your father Yin Qinyar borrowed 5 million from me, Xie Jinfei. If he can't pay back the debt by then, he will marry you, Yin Meng, to me. There's even your father's autograph on it." Xiao Chenyi glanced over, trying to see clearly what was written on the IOU, but the IOU was blocked by Yin Meng. Xiao Chenyi turned on his X-ray eyes and was able to see clearly the contents of the IOU. What was written on the IOU was similar to what Xie Jinfei said, except that how could a father borrow money and not be able to pay it back, and then use his daughter to pay off the debt? And looking at Xie Jingfei's appearance, it can almost be said that the IOU was absolutely forged. How about it, Yin Meng, have you made up your mind? Are you going to pay the debt or marry me? Yin Meng pursed her lips tightly. Xiao Qianyi looked over and saw traces of blood at the corners of Yin Meng's mouth. Rogue. Yin Meng didn't know what to say and kept repeating the word hooligan. You hooligan, har ha har ha, Yin Meng, you are shameless, you hooligan, I will show you how to be a hooligan today. As he said that, Xie Jingfei was about to touch Yin Meng, but at this moment, a book flew over from behind Yin Meng's right side and directly blocked Xie Jingfei's evil hands. Who? The gang leader Xie Jingfei had actually been eyeing Yin Meng for a long time, but this was a school after all, a public place, so he was a little hesitant. But now Yin Meng had repeatedly called him a gangster, which gave him a reason. Therefore, he was ready to take advantage of Yin Meng. However, just when Xie Jingfei's hand was about to touch Yin Meng's body, a book suddenly appeared and blocked Xie Jingfei's hand, which made the gang leader Xie Jingfei very angry. Behind Yin Meng, a tall young man suddenly stood up. The boy's eyes were filled with disgust towards Xie Jingfei. He took off his school uniform, revealing the muscles on his arms, and shouted, "Me! Look, it's Han Leshan. He's the captain of our school basketball team." Among the classmates, after Han Leshan stood up, there was a burst of cheers. Yo har har, a hero saves a beauty. Xie Jingfei looked at the young man, his face showing no fear at all, but full of mockery instead. Xie Jingfei pointed to the brothers beside him and kindly reminded the young man, "We have several brothers here. Are you planning to challenge all of us alone?" Han Leshan stood out just now because of the bloodiness unique to young people. As for the issue of number of people, he didn't really care too much about it. But now when he heard what Xie Jingfei said, he became a little worried. I am still a high school student, so maybe I can be better off fighting alone, but if all the opponents rush at me, I might not be able to get anything good. Just when Han Leshan was hesitant and didn't know what to do, he saw Yin Meng looking at him pitifully. Her eyes were filled with the feeling that you are my last straw. The young man, who was originally a little dejected, was encouraged by the look of the beautiful woman, and suddenly he seemed to be full of strength. The young man slammed the table and shouted loudly, "Men, please stand up and protect the girls. This is what men should do. They just want to compete in numbers, so let them see how many heroes we have in our class." The hero saving the beauty, which was originally something that only happened in TV dramas, suddenly happened right before their eyes. This had already ignited the bloodiness of the other teenagers. Now, inspired by that young man, many people stood up in an instant. Xiao Qianyi looked around the classroom and found that, except for himself, all the boys in the classroom had stood up. Moreover, among those who stood up, there were several female classmates. Obviously, they were the type of tomboys. Obviously, what Xiao Qianyi discovered was also discovered by others, so when they looked at Xiao Qianyi, their eyes were full of contempt. Xiao Qianyi seemed not to notice everyone's gazes. He did not stand up as everyone imagined after everyone looked at him. Xiao Qianyi still sat there, saying nothing, observing silently. Coward. I don't know which classmate with a hot temper cursed Xiao Qianyi after seeing his behavior. Xiao Qianyi ignored such insults. He was the captain of the Qianlong Special Forces and he had an absolutely calm mind. If these high school students could change Xiao Qianyi with just a few glances and words, then he would never have become the legendary king of soldiers. It seems that there are still smart people in your class. The gang leader Xie Jingfei smiled at Xiao Qianyi. Obviously, he also regarded Xiao Qianyi as a coward. There are many people. Do you think having more people will be useful? Come, I'll give you a choice. Either a group fight, where everyone comes together, or a one-on-one duel. The side that loses will have another person come up until everyone on one side falls. You choose for yourself. The gang leader Xie Jingfei said something like that, and then looked at Yin Meng with greedy eyes. It seemed that Xie Jingfei didn't take those high school students seriously at all. After discussing for a while, the high school students finally decided to take the second approach, a one-on-one duel. If the loser sends in another person, the fight will continue until all the people on one side are defeated. This method was not something they decided on casually. First of all, those gangsters usually fought in groups, so they were not at an advantage in group fights. But in a one-on-one fight, they had more people on their side, so perhaps it would be better. We choose the second option, which is a one-on-one duel. However, we also have a requirement, which is that we fight with bare hands and cannot use weapons. Xie Zhengfei stuck out his tongue, smacked his lips, and looked at Yin Meng with a lingering look for a few times. Then he turned around and looked at the high school students. Chapter 5 Fiasco. Who will die first? Han Leshan first walked up to Xie Zhengfei. He was the first one to stand up and fight with this group of thugs. He was also the one who instigated everyone to stand up together. So, of course, he had to be the one to test the strength of this group of thugs in this first round. On the gangster side, what no one expected was that the first one to come out to fight was the gang leader Xie Zhengfei. In their impression, when two gangs of thugs fight, isn't it usually just the smaller gang members fighting while the gang leader stands aside and just watches? However, now it is Xie Zhengfei, the gang leader, who is leading the charge. It can be said that he does not take these high school students seriously at all. Otherwise, why would he, the gang leader, be in the front? Seeing that Xie Zhengfei was ready, Han Leshan punched Xie Zhengfei in the nose. He was fighting with Xie Zhengfei. He was a high school student who focused on studying, while Xie Zhengfei was a gangster. He was not at an advantage in the fight, so he did not give in and was the first to attack. If he fought with such a gangster, how could he care about the gentlemanly way? Only a fool would do that. In response to Han Leshan's punch, Xie Zhengfei did not dodge or evade, but also punched back. The target of Xie Zhengfei's fist was Han Leshan's fist. Xiao Chenyi narrowed his eyes slightly. Xie Zhengfei wanted to fight head-on. Moreover, the moment Xie Zhengfei made his move, Xiao Chenyi also noticed the unusualness of Xie Zhengfei's punch. Han Leshan's punch was indeed just a punch, without any fancy moves. But others could not see any clues about Xie Zhengfei's punch, but how could he, Xiao Chenyi, not see it? That was not an ordinary punch, it was the Plum Blossom Fist from the Plum Blossom Village School of Chinese Martial Arts. Plum Blossom Manor is not a big sect, and its Plum Blossom Fist is not very powerful, but it is more than enough to deal with a few high school students. From the moment Xie Zhengfei walked into the classroom, Xiao Chenyi felt that Xie Zhengfei seemed unusual, which was why he did not stand up. As the saying goes, only when you know yourself and your enemy can you win every battle. If one acts rashly before figuring out the enemy's strength, one will only end up with the annihilation of one's own army. This is a truth Xiao Chenyi learned in the army, and now Xiao Chenyi has figured out Xie Zhengfei's background. The battle situation was just as Xiao Chenyi had expected. Han Leshan was no match for Xie Zhengfei at all. The moment his fist touched Xie Zhengfei's fist, he was knocked flying by Xie Zhengfei's punch. Han Leshan fell to the ground, in great pain, but he still gritted his teeth and persisted without crying out in pain. Xiao Chenyi watched and nodded secretly. Based on this point alone, if this high school student joins the army in the future, he will definitely be a good soldier. Han Leshan, how are you? After being knocked away by a punch, coupled with the fact that the weather was already very hot today, beads of sweat dripped down Han Leshan's head. At first, they were a little scared when they saw Han Leshan being knocked away by Xie Zhengfei's punch, but when they thought of Yin Meng's 10th place on the school beauty list, they became excited again. Yin Meng is the 10th ranked school beauty on the school beauty list, but little did people know that school beauties are very difficult to pursue, and now is a perfect opportunity. The beauties on the school beauties list are the objects of pursuit of all boys every year. Therefore, it is extremely difficult to pursue the beauties on the school beauties list without any ability. If I can come to the rescue now, I will definitely leave a good impression in Yin Meng's heart, and it may be easier to pursue Yin Meng at that time. Those high school boys became excited one by one, and when they looked at Xie Zhengfei, there was an indescribable emotion in their eyes. In their eyes, it seemed that Xie Zhengfei had been defeated by them, and Yin Meng was looking at them as if he were a hero. Xiao Chenyi could only find their looks funny. If they had chosen to fight in a group, relying on their numbers, they might have had some chance of winning. But now they chose to fight alone, then in front of Xie Zhengfei who knew martial arts, these students would only suffer a miserable defeat. As expected, after two more students were knocked flying by Xie Zhengfei's punch, the group of students seemed to have finally come to their senses. If you want to act like a hero in front of the school bell, you must have the capital to do so. If you don't have this ability, then you can only act like a bear in front of the school bell, which is extremely embarrassing. Xie Zhengfei was arrogant. He pointed at the three young men on the ground who were sent flying by his punch and laughed. Rubbish, if you want to be a hero and save the damsel in distress, you must have the ability to do so. You high school students whose hair hasn't even fully grown yet, you should just go home and suck your mother's milk, har ha ha ha. There was a lot of sarcasm in Xie Jingfei's words, and his words also caused the gang of hooligans behind him to laugh. You, come here and fight with me. And you? The two young men pointed out by Xie Jingfei now had pale faces, and they no longer had the fearless look of youth. When Xie Jingfei looked around, he saw that wherever he looked, the young men there would unconsciously take a few steps back. Obviously, several classmates were knocked back by Xie Jingfei one after another, which finally made the whole gang feel the danger. Therefore, facing Xie Jingfei's shouting, they could only choose to retreat. Seeing that all the young men who stood up became timid under Xie Jingfei's imposing gaze, Yin Meng suddenly felt that the little hope she had was shattered, and tears welled up in her eyes again. Xie Jingfei laughed strangely. Without the obstruction of this group of high school students, he seemed to become even more unscrupulous. Just like that, in broad daylight, Xie Jingfei touched Yin Meng's face again. When the boys who retreated saw Xie Jingfei about to touch Yin Meng's hand, they couldn't help but want to stand up again. But when they thought about the consequence of fighting with Xie Jingfei, that is, they would be beaten flying backwards, but they could do nothing about Xie Jingfei, they could only give up helplessly. Many of them closed their eyes, because they didn't want to see Yin Meng, who was like a goddess in their hearts and ranked 10th on the school beauty list, being touched by Xie Jingfei. Xie Jingfei had drool on the corner of his mouth and had a wicked smile on his face, and was about to touch Yin Meng's face. And at this moment, just when Xie Jingfei's hand was about to touch Yin Meng's face, Xiao Qianyi took action. Xiao Qianyi's speed was so fast that even Xie Jingfei, who had learned kung fu, did not see when Xiao Qianyi made his move. Chapter 6: Death or Wrongful Ending. By the time Xie Jingfei discovered it, his right thumb had been bent over by Xiao Qianyi, and he was screaming in pain. Xiao Qianyi looked at Yin Meng beside him, smiled at Yin Meng, then stood up, put one foot on the chair, and jumped up. Xiao Qianyi actually jumped over the table, and his hand was still holding Xie Jingfei's right thumb. Xie Jingfei was not an ordinary gangster, he also knew some martial arts, but now, with Xiao Qianyi holding his right thumb like this, he didn't know why, but he felt that he couldn't use any strength at all. Xiao Qianyi grabbed his right thumb and jumped out from behind the table. Xie Jingfei's thumb was almost broken by Xiao Qianyi. When those gangsters saw this situation, they knew that something was wrong, so they no longer cared about the previous words of fighting alone, and rushed forward towards Xiao Qianyi. Xiao Qianyi narrowed his eyes slightly. If someone who was familiar with Xiao Qianyi saw this expression, he would definitely be praying for those gangsters at this moment. Xiao Qianyi is the captain of the Qianlong Special Forces and the legendary king of soldiers. When a soldier squints his eyes, what does it mean? It means aiming and shooting. For a king of soldiers like Xiao Qianyi, aiming and shooting means a headshot. Sure enough, those thugs who were originally so arrogant had no power to fight back at all in the hands of Xiao Qianyi. They were easily knocked down one by Xiao Qianyi. This was when Xiao Qianyi was holding Xie Jingfei with one hand. If Xiao Qianyi had both hands empty, who knows what the final outcome would be for this group of thugs. Looking at the thugs lying on the ground, some covering their heads, some covering their stomachs, the teenagers who had stood up were completely dumbfounded at this moment, especially the teenager who had a hot temper and called Xiao Qianyi a coward. Now he was really ashamed. Because he was not one of the three people who were knocked flying by Xie Jingfei. He was one of those who were frightened away by Xie Jingfei's eyes. Now, he himself was scared away by Xie Jingfei's eyes, while Xiao Qianyi easily knocked all the gangsters to the ground. And before that, I even said that Xiao Qianyi was a coward. How ridiculous is that? Xiao Qianyi paid no attention to the surprised looks of those people. As a soldier, the first thing he had to do was to remain absolutely calm under any circumstances. Xiao Qianyi's hand was still holding Xie Jingfei's thumb. Xiao Qianyi sat on the chair that Xie Jingfei had originally sat on, with a cold look on his face. Yin Meng is my woman. You are going to touch my woman with your right hand, right? Then chop off your right hand. Xiao Qianyi's tone was cold, and his words gave people the feeling that Xiao Qianyi did not want to scare Xie Jingfei, but that he would really chop off one of Xie Jingfei's hands. At this moment, Xie Jingfei was a little panicked. He tried desperately to break free from Xiao Qianyi's hand, but no matter how hard he tried, his hand was still firmly held by Xiao Qianyi, not moving at all. When the other students in the classroom heard Xiao Qianyi say that Yin Meng was his woman, surprisingly, they did not say anything against it. Although they also liked Yin Meng, since they were not as skilled as others, there was nothing to object to. And seeing Yin Meng's reaction when she heard this, they wanted her to agree as well. In fact, they had no idea that Yin Meng was already engaged to Xiao Chenyi. In a sense, Yin Meng was really Xiao Chenyi's woman. In the end, Xie Zhengfei finally realized that he had failed this time, completely at the hands of a high school student. But there was one thing Xie Zhengfei really couldn't understand. The young man in front of him, whether it was his martial arts or the sophisticated tone of his voice, didn't look like a high school student at all. This is definitely a veteran in the world. Xiao Chenyi was pretending to be a coward at first. After other boys stood up, he was still sitting there. At that moment, he was deceived by the boy in front of him and really thought he was a coward. But now, the young man in front of him, if he didn't take action, it would be fine. But once he took action, he used thundering means. Not only did he control himself and couldn't move, but he also made his brothers fall down one by one at the fastest speed. Brother, are you kidding me? Looking at Xiao Chenyi's face that was cold enough to kill someone, Xie Zhengfei forced a smile. Xiao Chenyi's eyes were as sharp as knives. He looked straight at Xie Zhengfei without saying a word. At this moment, the atmosphere in the classroom was a little weird. No one dared to breathe loudly. They only dared to exhale when Xiao Chenyi exhaled. Xiao Chenyi successfully became the leader of Class 1, Grade 3 in just a few minutes, just like when he only took a few minutes to make the members of the Qianlong Special Forces obey him. After a moment of silence, Xiao Chenyi finally spoke. Death, or write off the account. After hearing what Xiao Chenyi said, Xie Zhengfei felt relieved and his body suddenly collapsed to the ground. Xiao Chenyi was a teenager, and sometimes teenagers did things based on their personal preferences. They would not consider the consequences at all. Xie Zhengfei was really afraid that Xiao Chenyi would cut off his arm or kill him directly in an impulse. But the last two conditions given by Xiao Chenyi just now have already shown that Xiao Chenyi is not an impulsive person. Those seem to be two conditions, but in fact they are equivalent to asking Xie Zhengfei to write off the account. Do you smoke? Xiao Chenyi released the hand that was holding Xie Zhengfei's thumb and asked softly. Pull. Xie Zhengfei had a fawning look on his face. When he heard Xiao Chenyi ask him if he smoked, he immediately handed him a pack of Zhonghua cigarettes. Then he took out a cigarette skillfully and handed it to Xiao Chenyi. Xie Zhengfei then took out a lighter and was about to light the cigarette for Xiao Chenyi. Xiao Chenyi took the lighter from Xie Zhengfei and picked up the IOU on the table, which stated that Yin Qinya had borrowed 5 million yuan from Xie Zhengfei and would use his daughter to pay off the debt if he couldn't pay it back. Bang! Xiao Chenyi turned on the lighter and burned the IOU. And Xiao Chenyi's actions made the girls in the class feel that he was super handsome. Being a hero saving a beautiful girl is what all girls aspire to be. Besides, Xiao Chenyi looked so cool when he burned the IOU just now. Chapter 7 Nosebleed. An IOU for 5 million was like garbage in front of Xiao Chenyi. He burned it just like that. How cool! Although Xie Zhengfei knew that he might not be able to keep the IOU when Xiao Chenyi stated the two conditions just now, but when he really saw Xiao Chenyi burning the IOU like that, Xie Zhengfei couldn't help but show a trace of pain on his face. No matter what, it was 5 million renminbi after all. Although Xie Zhengfei knew that the IOU was fake and that the Jin family had asked him to come and embarrass Yin Meng, Xie Zhengfei had his own thoughts. That is, a lean camel is bigger than a horse. Who knows whether the Yin family can still come up with 5 million. If I push them too hard at that time, and the Yin family really gives me 5 million, then I will be rich. But now, everything is impossible. The IOU has been burned by Xiao Chenyi. Xie Zhengfei was filled with hatred towards Xiao Chenyi at this moment. If he could defeat Xiao Chenyi, Xie Zhengfei would really want to kill Xiao Chenyi. Xiao Chenyi returned the lighter to Xie Zhengfei, then took the pack of cigarettes and the cigarette that Xie Zhengfei had handed over. Xiao Chenyi put the cigarette back into the cigarette box. Xiao Chenyi smiled at Xie Zhengfei. His expression was very natural and polite. This is the only IOU. The Yin family has only lent you 5 million, right? After hearing Xiao Chenyi's question, Xie Zhengfei hated Xiao Chenyi even more. The IOU for 5 million was forged by someone from the Jin family. Since it was forged, Xie Zhengfei was not afraid that Xiao Chenyi would burn it. The Jin family can help Xie Zhengfei forge an IOU, and of course they can also help him forge a second IOU. At that time, Xie Zhengfei only needs to bring another IOU to blackmail the Yin family again. But now, Xiao Chenyi's question was very vicious. Xiao Chenyi was asking Xie Zhengfei to admit in front of everyone that the Yin family had only lent him this sum of money. If Xie Zhengfei came with an IOU again in the future, it would be forged. Moreover, if he really brought another IOU, the Yin family might even directly doubt the authenticity of the first IOU, which would be a loss. Therefore, Xie Zhengfei hated Xiao Qianyi very much, but he could do nothing because of Xiao Qianyi's strength. No, I'll just borrow this one. After hearing Xie Zhengfei's answer, Xiao Qianyi seemed a little dissatisfied. He frowned slightly and then asked another question. Has Yin Qianyi ever asked you to borrow money? Xie Zhengfei seemed to not quite understand what Xiao Qianyi meant, and said immediately. I only borrowed 5 million, nothing else. Xiao Qianyi nodded and smiled gently. Well, you said Yin Qianyi borrowed 5 million from you. Well, take out the IOU. I'll pay you back after seeing the IOU. Xie Zhengfei widened his eyes full of disbelief. Take out the IOU. Have you, Xiao Qianyi, lost your memory? I have already taken out the IOU just now. It was you who burned it. Why are you asking me for it again now? IOU, didn't you just burn the IOU? Although Xie Zhengfei was afraid of Xiao Qianyi's martial arts, he couldn't help but feel greedy when he thought of the 5 million. Therefore, although Xie Zhengfei was obviously lacking in confidence when he said this, he still said it in the end. I burned the IOU. How ridiculous. How could I burn your IOU when you haven't even taken it out yet? Hearing what Xiao Qianyi said, Xie Zhengfei almost vomited blood. The young man in front of him was really too experienced. This ability of confusing right and wrong and refusing to admit one's mistakes is even more gangster-like than those of these gangsters. Tell me, did I burn his IOU? Xiao Qianyi turned to look at the classmates around him and asked them. No, he didn't produce the IOU. What IOU? I didn't see it. And those classmates naturally understood what Xiao Qianyi meant. They all shook their heads to indicate that they didn't see it. Some of them were even covering their mouths and laughing secretly. Seeing Xie Zhengfei's face turning red and white, at this moment, Xiao Qianyi really became the boss in the hearts of all his classmates. After getting a satisfactory answer, Xiao Qianyi felt relieved. Then Xiao Qianyi ignored Xie Zhengfei and looked at Yin Meng. When Xiao Qianyi looked at Yin Meng, 2 streams of blood suddenly spurted out of his nose. Xiao Qianyi himself had forgotten that he had turned on his X-ray vision just now in order to read the contents of the IOU, and now when he looked at Yin Meng like this, Yin Meng's body was completely seen by him. Seeing Xiao Qianyi bleeding from the nose, Yin Meng thought that Xiao Qianyi was injured because of the fight with Xie Zhengfei and others just now. Therefore, Yin Meng quickly took out a napkin to wipe Xiao Qianyi's nosebleed. Xiao Qianyi had not yet closed his X-ray eyes, but he came into contact with Yin Meng's body again, and some manly reactions immediately appeared. Xiao Qianyi quickly closed his eyes of insight and silently chanted Amitabha in his heart. Only then did he calm down his man's reaction. You were not hurt when you fought with them just now. Although Xiao Qianyi seemed to be fine, Yin Meng was still very worried and asked again with concern. At this moment, Xiao Qianyi's body was very close to Yin Meng, so close that the air from Yin Meng's mouth when she spoke was directly sprayed on Xiao Qianyi's face. Coupled with Yin Meng's unique coquettish voice, Xiao Qianyi almost reacted again. Fortunately, Xiao Qianyi quickly stepped back a little and let out a long breath. Looking at the extremely caring look in Yin Meng's big eyes, Xiao Qianyi quickly shook his head to indicate that he was fine. Besides the IOU, is there anything else he can do to embarrass you? Xiao Qianyi's ordinary question actually gave Xie Zhengfei the feeling that Yin Meng's next answer would be an imperial edict. If Yin Meng said no, then they would be fine, but if Yin Meng said yes, then they would be dead. This is a kind of pressure from a powerful person emanating from Xiao Qianyi. This kind of pressure is nothing to other people, but to someone like him who knows martial arts, it is even more obvious. Under the expectant gazes of Xie Zhengfei and others, Yin Meng finally shook his head. Seeing Yin Meng shaking his head, Xie Zhengfei took a deep breath. Apart from the threat of 5 million, he really had not done anything to Yin Meng. But he was afraid that Yin Meng was talking nonsense. If that was true, they didn't know what the outcome would be. Chapter 8 Policewoman. At this moment, a person walked in from outside the classroom. The man was wearing a pair of black-rimmed glasses and looked like a school leader. What's going on? The man walked in and saw several classmates and several men in strange clothes lying on the ground. He also looked confused and asked about what happened. Director Gao, this is what happened. Among the classmates, there were those who knew this person and began to explain to Director Gao what had happened. And from that person's mouth, Xiao Chini also learned that the person in front of him was Gao Wang, the director of the political education department of Donghai Middle School. After that person finished explaining what happened, Director Gao walked towards Xiao Chini step by step. You hit him. Xiao Chini didn't say anything. The classmate had already told him what had happened. It was unnecessary for Director Gao to ask him this question now. Seeing that Xiao Chini ignored his question, Director Gao was so angry that his teeth were chattering. There were so many students in the classroom, and people from outside the school were present, but his question was not answered. Director Gao already held a grudge against Xiao Chini. You are the leader of the school, right? You have to make the decision for us. Yin Meng owes us 5 million, and we are just here to collect the debt. But your students beat us up like this for no reason. Your school has to give us an explanation. Master Gao was a bully who only bullied the weak and feared the strong. He would bully students whenever he could, but he was extremely afraid of people like Xie Jingfei. Don't worry, it's only natural to pay back a debt, and our school will definitely give you an explanation. Xiao Chini shook his head. Director Gao had been showing hostility towards him since he walked into the classroom. Either Director Gao and Xie Jingfei were in cahoots with each other, or Director Gao was afraid that Xie Jingfei would retaliate against him in the future. Apologize to them. Xiao Chini stood up, too lazy to pay attention to Director Gao, and walked directly out of the classroom. Xiao Chini once again ignored Director Gao's words. Stop right there, what are you doing? Go to the police station. Didn't you say you would give them an explanation? This time, Xiao Chini finally gave Director Gao an answer, but after Xiao Chini said this, he walked out of the classroom without looking back. So handsome. How cool. The first year of high school is the age when boys and girls begin to fall in love, and Xiao Chini's performance just now directly made several girls in the classroom go crazy with him. Director Gao still wanted to stop Xiao Chini, but thinking about it, this matter was not a small matter and it could not be solved by the school alone. In the end, the police station would still need to intervene in this matter, so no one tried to stop Xiao Chini. In recent years, people from society often go to schools to cause trouble. Therefore, Donghai City has set up police stations around schools. It didn't take Xiao Chini long to get to the police station. Walking into the duty room of the police station, Xiao Chini saw a female police officer who was eating, and a little bit of panda eyes could be seen in her eyes. Obviously, this female police officer must have been on duty all night last night. Looking for someone. Seeing someone coming in, the female police officer raised her head and asked, then immediately lowered her head and took a bite of rice. Seeing the female police officer's appearance, Xiao Chini felt particularly familiar. It was the same when he was in the army before. He would be on duty all night and have dark circles under his eyes. If he encountered any emergency mission at this time, he would not even have time to eat breakfast. Call the police. I'm a student in Class 1, Grade 3 of Donghai Middle School. My name is Xiao Chini. A few young people from society came to our school to cause trouble, and I beat a few of them down. Xiao Chini told the female police officer what had just happened in the classroom in the shortest possible words. After listening to Xiao Chini's account of what happened, the female police officer coughed repeatedly, which caused a surge in front of her. Xiao Chini quickly took a few steps back. He had already had a nosebleed today because of Yin Meng, and he didn't want to have it again. You said you knocked down several of them by yourself, and with just one hand. The female police officer looked Xiao Chini up and down, but she still couldn't figure out what was so magical about Xiao Chini that he could deal with so many people by himself. Just when the female police officer wanted to ask Xiao Chini a few more questions, a shocking cry suddenly came from outside the duty room. He's been murdered. Has he been murdered? Is there any law left in this world? Listening to the noise outside the duty room, Xiao Chini knew that the thugs should have arrived, and their words were obviously the typical case of the bad guys making the first complaint. Before the female police officer could ask them any questions, they shouted out that they had killed someone. However, those thugs were obviously lacking in confidence. They only dared to shout outside the duty room, but no one dared to walk into the duty room. The female police officer walked outside the duty room and shouted loudly. What are you shouting about? What are you shouting about? Come in and tell me what you have to say. The female police officer had already known what had happened from Xiao Chini, so she had no good impression of the thugs outside and was not polite to them at all. Officer, look at what my brother has been beaten up by that high school student. Although Xie Jingfei was naturally afraid of places like police stations, as the leader of this gang of thugs, he still stood up. Come in and make a statement. The female police officer had seen many people like Xie Jingfei, and she was not afraid of Xie Jingfei and his men at all. The female police officer fully understood the psychology of Xie Jingfei and his men. Even though Xie Jingfei and his men looked fierce now, they would immediately become more restrained once they walked into the duty room. After saying this, the female police officer walked back into the duty room. When the thugs saw this, they had no choice but to follow in. Officer, here's what happened. Xie Jingfei walked into the duty room, shrank his neck unconsciously, and was about to speak again, but was interrupted by the female police officer. Speak slowly. I'm going to take this student's statement first, and then I'll take yours later. Xie Jingfei knew very well the importance of first impression. In this matter, they were not in the right to begin with. Even if Xiao Qinyi did not exaggerate, they were still in the wrong. If Xiao Qinyi added some non-existent things, then this matter would probably be even more disadvantageous to them. Therefore, Xie Jingfei was about to speak again, but when he saw the fierce look from the female police officer, he had no choice but to give up. Just now he had only roughly described what had happened, but now he was taking notes, so Xiao Qinyi told the story again and added some details. Apart from his ability to see through things, Xiao Qinyi didn't hide anything, even the fact that he had burned the IOU. Chapter 9, Open Your Eyes Again. After the female police officer finished taking the statement, she turned to look at Xie Jingfei and the others. Do you have anything else to add? Xie Jingfei opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but thinking about what Xiao Qinyi had just said, he really had nothing to add. He originally thought that Xiao Qinyi would definitely not mention the burning of the IOU, but now that Xiao Qinyi had talked about this matter, what else did he have to add? Just when Xie Jingfei was about to shake his head to indicate that he had nothing to say, footsteps were heard outside the duty room. Immediately afterwards, 3 middle-aged men walked into the duty room. And among those 3 people, one of them was Director Gao. The other 2 people, one was wearing a police uniform and the other was wearing a suit. Director Zhang, why are you here? When the female police officer saw the person coming, she stood up immediately. The man in police uniform is called Zhang Shen, and he is the director of this police station. I heard someone was beating someone up, so I came to take a look. Director Gao did not come with those thugs just now, which made Xiao Qinyi a little suspicious. And now Director Zhang came in and directly said that someone was beating someone up, not that someone went to the school to cause trouble. Then, Director Zhang's attitude is very clear. Looking at Xie Jingfei again, and then seeing the 3 people coming in, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Now, Xiao Qinyi is completely certain that Xie Jingfei and others are in the same group as the 3 people in front of him. However, Xiao Qinyi still doesn't know who this other person is. You're the one who hurt him. Since he knew that Director Zhang was in cahoots with Xie Jingfei and his gang, Xiao Qinyi ignored Director Zhang's question. Director Zhang saw that Xiao Qinyi had no intention of answering his question at all and treated what he had just said as nonsense. Director Zhang felt that his authority was challenged. Director Zhang slammed the table, causing a teacup on the table to flip over. Lin Maimai, arrest this man for a gang fight. Keep him in jail for a few days first. The female police officer Lin Maimai just now, of course, knows that her chief Zhang pays the most attention to his face. Now, he had lost face at the hands of Xiao Qinyi and was ready to arrest him. However, every country has its own laws and every family has its own rules. She had just thoroughly investigated the course of this incident, and no matter how it went, Xiao Qinyi was not wrong. Therefore, although Director Zhang is her leader, he would not abuse his power for this purpose. Captain Zhang, Xiao Qinyi did nothing wrong. Even if he hit someone, it was self-defense. I can't arrest him. Lin Maimai, as her name suggests, is not only beautiful in appearance but also beautiful in heart. She was afraid that Director Zhang would make things difficult for Xiao Qinyi again, so she walked up to Xiao Qinyi and protected him behind her. What are you doing? Don't you understand what I'm saying? This kid beats others for no reason. According to the law, arrest him. Director Zhang was a man who cared a lot about his reputation. Xiao Qinyi's ignoring of his questions just now already made him feel humiliated. Now, his own subordinates were openly disobeying his orders. This time, Director Zhang could no longer tolerate it. Director Zhang pulled out a pistol, pointed it at Xiao Chenyi, and then said to Lin Maimai, "Lock him up, or I'll shoot him." Seeing Director Zhang's actions, Lin Maimai was also shocked. Shooting is no joke. Lin Maimai didn't know why Director Zhang was so excited today. Lin Maimai wanted to say something else but was stopped by Xiao Chenyi behind her. Xiao Chenyi walked out from behind Lin Maimai and looked at Director Zhang without blinking. After a period of confrontation, Xiao Chenyi said something that made Lin Maimai nervous to death. "Captain Zhang, shoot." Xiao Chenyi said this openly without beating around the bush. Instead, there was a hint of sarcasm in his tone. "Aren't you afraid that I'll shoot you?" Xiao Chenyi took a few steps forward, walked in front of Director Zhang, and put his head above the muzzle of the gun. "Shoot." Xiao Chenyi shrugged fearlessly, and then added, "If there are bullets in the gun, just shoot." The moment Director Zhang took out the gun, Xiao Chenyi had already turned on his X-ray vision, so he saw clearly that there was no bullet in the gun. Director Zhang took out the shell and saw that there was indeed no bullet inside. Director Zhang gritted his teeth, his body almost shaking with anger. "I thought that if I took out the gun, I would be able to scare this high school student in front of me. But now, it was impossible for him to shoot and kill Xiao Chenyi." What made Director Zhang feel even more embarrassed was that he didn't even know whether there was a bullet in his gun. This made him even more embarrassed. Xiao Chenyi moved his right hand flexibly and snatched the gun from Director Zhang's hand. Chief Zhang was also shocked when the gun was snatched away by Xiao Chenyi. Although there was no bullet in the gun, for a policeman, a gun is like life, or even more important than life. Now that his gun was snatched away by Xiao Chenyi so easily, it was no longer a matter of face. If this matter gets out, he might lose his position as the chief of the police station. "Captain Zhang, you just put a gun to my head. I'm so scared. How about I report this to my superiors? Or, you can apologize to me. I'm not a stingy person." Director Zhang wanted to say something, but the other middle-aged man in the black suit spoke. "Zhangsheng, apologize and don't act on impulse." Zhangsheng looked at the middle-aged man, and after a period of ideological struggle, he had no choice but to accept it. Director Zhang exhaled deeply, turned to face Xiao Chenyi, and lowered his head. "I'm sorry." Although Director Zhang said sorry to Xiao Chenyi, his heart was extremely dark. He would definitely pay back the humiliation he suffered today one day in the future. "You're too polite, Director Zhang. I was just joking." Xiao Chenyi hurriedly helped Chief Zhang up and immediately returned the gun to Chief Zhang with a look of fear and concern on his face. At the moment when Director Zhang took the gun, Xiao Chenyi said in a joking tone, "Director Zhang is very generous. He will not bear a grudge against me because of this incident and will not think of ways to retaliate against me in the future." Director Zhang was about to take the gun from Xiao Chenyi, but when he heard Xiao Chenyi's words, he suddenly felt that his thoughts were seen through. No, am I that kind of person? Well, I'm not familiar with Director Zhang. Anyway, if anything happens to me in the future, it will be Director Zhang's revenge on me. Chapter 10: Bribery. Now, Director Zhang suddenly had a feeling that the high school student in front of him was not simple, or rather, extremely not simple. He knew that there were no bullets in his gun, and now he seemed to see clearly what he was thinking, and he even threatened him half-jokingly. Are these really just coincidences? If it was a coincidence, it would be too much of a coincidence. If not, then how terrifying would this high school student in front of me be? After returning the gun to Director Zhang, Xiao Chenyi prepared to leave. "Can I go now?" However, at this moment, the middle-aged man in the black suit stopped Xiao Chenyi. "My dear brother, don't leave in such a hurry. I have something to say to you." Xiao Chenyi turned his head and looked at the middle-aged man in black. Xiao Chenyi felt that this man was not simple. At least, his skills are definitely not simple. Xie Zhengfei, who only knows a little bit of Plum Blossom Fist, is definitely not a match for the man in front of him. I'm afraid that even Director Zhang is no match for this man. So, who is this person, what is his relationship with this matter, and why did he call out to me? Thoughts flashed rapidly through Xiao Chenyi's mind. "Who are you?" The middle-aged man in black first handed over a business card, and then said, "My name is Jin Hongyuan." Xiao Chenyi took the business card and looked at Jin Hongyuan. Jin Hongyuan's action just now seemed to be a very subtle one, but it was actually a very standard way of hospitality. Before you give your name, hand over your business card first, then say your name. This action was not unfamiliar to Xiao Chini. Xiao Chini used to be a Special Forces soldier, and one of the training elements of Special Forces soldiers is camouflage. A Special Forces soldier, in certain circumstances, has to disguise himself as a nobleman. Being a nobleman is not just about having a lot of money. More importantly, his words and deeds are like those of a nobleman. Handing over your business card first and then introducing yourself is a very obvious sign of nobility. If you only say your name, others may still not know how to write your name. And if you just hand over a business card, there may be characters in your name that the other party does not recognize, which is also very embarrassing. Therefore, Jin Hongyuan's approach now makes people feel very comfortable. Xiao Chini. The person in front of him was obviously in the same group as Shi Jingfei and his gang. Xiao Chini didn't want to make close friends with him, so he just reported a name. Xiao Chini, Bei Chen Xingong, Long Pan Feng Yi, what a good name. Xiao Chini narrowed his eyes slightly, but then opened them again. I just reported a name, but Jin Hongyuan compared me to the Big Dipper in the sky and the best among men. Plus, his action of handing me a business card just now showed that Jin Hongyuan wanted to make friends with me. What on earth do you want? If nothing happens, I'll go back to school and attend class. Xiao Chini didn't want to have too much interaction with Jin Hongyuan, so he tried every means to leave. Student Xiao, there's no rush at school. Just listen to what Master Jin has to say first. Seeing that Xiao Chini wanted to use the school as an excuse to stall Jin Hongyuan, Director Gao spoke up. Director Gao is the leader of Donghai Middle School. Since he said so, Xiao Chini could only helplessly listen to Jin Hongyuan finish his words. Xiao Chini, have you heard of the family rich list? Xiao Chini looked at Jin Hongyuan without saying a word. If you don't let me go, then I'll stay, but I won't say a word, so what can you do to me? At this moment, Jin Hongyuan finally understood why Zhongxing was so angry just now. People like them are people of status and position, and are usually surrounded by flattery and adulation. Now, suddenly someone ignores them and speaks to them. Of course, this will make them angry. Donghai City will compile a list of the richest families every year based on the financial resources of each family. The families on the list will also become more famous because of this ranking and thus get more business. Although he was unhappy about Xiao Chini's ignoring him, Jin Hongyuan continued talking to himself. Although Xiao Chini remained silent, he had already developed some interest in what Jin Hongyuan said. Xiao Chini knew that the Yin family was the family ranked 10th on the richest family list. Although there is a rule that the family rich list will be re-elected once a year, there is an exception. That is, if a family on the family rich list declares bankruptcy, then a new election will be held. Having said that, Jin Hongyuan paused slightly, then took out a bank card from his pocket and handed it to Xiao Chini. If the family list is re-elected, our Jin family will definitely be selected, so I hope Xiao Chini, you can help me. Xiao Chini stared at Jin Hongyuan, causing Jin Hongyuan to get goosebumps all over his body. How can I help you? A cheerful person. Hearing what Xiao Chini said, Jin Hongyuan was overjoyed. He thought Xiao Chini had already agreed. Xiao Chini, Yin Qianya and Han Shuamei of the Yin family are already dead, and Yin Meng is a girl. The Yin family can't hold on for much longer. As the son-in-law of the Yin family, if you can help me announce the bankruptcy of the Yin family, then the 1 million in this card will all be yours. As he spoke, Jin Hongyuan put the card into Xiao Chini's hand. Xiao Chini smiled coldly. He used to be a king of soldiers, calmness and analysis were his specialties. From the few words that Jin Hongyuan said just now, Xiao Chini analyzed a lot of things. The Yin family and the Jin family are the biggest competitors. The car accident of Yin Qianya and Han Shuamei is probably related to the Jin family. What's more, before the death of Yin Qianya and his wife, the Jin family launched a crazy and malicious competition against the Yin family. It seems more like the Jin family already knew that Yin Qianya and his wife were about to die, and took this opportunity to mess up the Yin's enterprise. After Yin Qianya and his wife died, the Yin's enterprise would be completely finished. There is one more thing. He is the son-in-law of the Yin family. This just happened last night, but Jin Hongyuan already knows it now. This means that Yin Haijiao has turned against his own people and is following the Jin family. In addition to Yin Haijiao, Director Gao in front of him and the chief of the police station are probably all members of the Jin family. It seems that it is not easy for him to protect Yin Meng. However, Xiao Chini was born a soldier after all, and he knew the rules of propriety and honor. He would rather work harder to protect Yin Meng than collude with the people in front of him. Chapter 11. Is it pleasant to touch? Xiao Chini threw the bank card with a deposit of 1 million yuan in it at Jin Hong Yuan's face. Without saying a word, he turned around and walked out of the police station. Asshole, Xiao Chini, just wait for me, I want you to die. Xiao Chini pretended not to hear Jin Hong Yuan's scolding, which sounded like a pig being slaughtered, coming from the duty room, and continued walking outside. Gao Shen, isn't he a student of your school? Beat him up, beat him hard, beat him to death. Yes, yes, yes. Director Gao had never seen Jin Hongyuan so angry. Jin Hongyuan was the third young master of the Jin family. Although the Jin family had never been on the list of the richest families, anyone with a discerning eye knew it. Apart from the top 10 families on the richest family list in Donghai City, the richest family is probably the Jin family in front of them. Therefore, no one would be willing to offend Jin Hongyuan. But now, Jin Hongyuan was humiliated so much that his bank card was thrown in his face. This made him feel that this was the greatest humiliation he had ever experienced in his life. On their way back to school, Xiao Chini was full of thoughts. I am in the light while the enemy is in the dark. It seems that it is not an easy task to successfully protect Yin Meng. Before he knew it, Xiao Chini had arrived at the classroom door. Seeing that the door was not closed, but just ajar, Xiao Chini pushed the door open directly, while in his mind, he was still thinking about how to protect Yin Meng. Xiao Chini lowered his head to think about something, and suddenly he found that his hand seemed to touch something soft. Xiao Chini looked up and saw the female teacher teaching everyone standing behind the classroom door. And now, his hand was placed right in front of the female teacher. At this moment, both Xiao Chini and the female teacher blushed. Report. In the end, it was Xiao Chini who reacted quickly. He quickly withdrew his hand and shouted loudly. Although the female teacher was also very embarrassed, she couldn't lose her temper at this time. Moreover, this matter couldn't be entirely blamed on Xiao Chini. After all, Xiao Chini didn't know that she was standing behind the door. Come in. Hearing the female teacher's words, Xiao Chini hurried into the classroom and returned to his seat. How is it? Did you enjoy the touch? As soon as Xiao Chini sat down, he heard the voice of Yin Meng, the extremely gossipy person, beside him. What? Xiao Chini played dumb. This matter was nothing to him, he was a man after all, but the teacher was a girl, therefore, Xiao Chini still didn't want this matter to spread. Why are you pretending to be stupid? I saw everything. When you came in, you touched teacher Xia all over. How was it? Did you feel good? Xiao Chini was speechless for a while. This girl's ability to exaggerate was really strong. I just accidentally touched teacher Xia when I entered the door, and then in her mouth, it seemed like I touched teacher Xia all over. Boring. Xiao Chini rolled his eyes at Yin Meng and stopped talking to her about this matter. Ding-a-ling. And just at this moment, the bell for the end of get out of class rang. Let's go have lunch. This class is the last class in the morning, and the bell for the end of get out of class is of course the bell for lunch. Will this expose the relationship between us? Yin Meng was a little surprised by Xiao Chini's words. At the beginning, it was Xiao Chini who suggested concealing his identity and secretly protecting Yin Meng. Why did he want to have dinner with Yin Meng now? Come on, I'll explain it to you later. Yin Meng wanted to say something, but was so frightened by Xiao Chini's glare that she dared not speak. Yin Meng followed Xiao Chini to a fairly good restaurant. This was the first time Xiao Chini invited Yin Meng to dinner. Yin Meng had a different status and had been spoiled since childhood, so Xiao Chini was embarrassed to take her to a bad place to eat. After entering the restaurant, Xiao Chini and Yin Meng chose a relatively quiet place and sat down. You order what you want to eat. Hearing Xiao Chini's words, Yin Meng smiled wickedly, then picked up the menu on the table and started ordering. This, and this, yes, and that. Yin Meng ordered more than 10 dishes in a row from the waiter next to her, and the price of each dish was not cheap. After listening to the dishes Yin Meng ordered and calculating the prices of those dishes, Xiao Chini regretted bringing Yin Meng out for dinner. After school, it would be great to take her directly to the school cafeteria. It saves money and is convenient. What else would you like to order? Yin Meng handed the menu to Xiao Chini and gave him a meaningful smile. Xiao Chini took the menu and handed it to the waiter next to him without even looking at it. It's not certain that Yin Meng can finish all the dishes she ordered. Is it necessary to order more? You don't want to order. Seeing that Xiao Chini didn't order, Yin Meng asked again. Xiao Chini gritted his teeth and said to the waiter, "Help this lady get another glass of milk. She is short of it." Xiao Chini's words amused the waiter, who was standing aside and watching Xiao Chini and Yin Meng quarreling. However, it was working hours now, so he didn't dare laugh out loud and could only hold it in. "Waiter, give this gentleman a banana. He is also short of it." When Yin Meng finished saying this, she stuck out her tongue at Xiao Chini. It was obvious that she was very proud. Puff. This time, the waiter obviously couldn't help laughing. After the waiter left, Xiao Chini and Yin Meng both suddenly became serious. "Your second uncle has taken refuge with the Jin family." Xiao Chini went straight to the point and stated the matter directly. "How do you know that?" "The people who came to deal with you today were sent by the Jin family, and the Jin family already knew that you and I were engaged. They were able to know this in such a short time. It must have been your second uncle who told them. Yin Haijiao is a traitorous bastard. There are more serious things." "What?" Gao Sheng, the director of the school's political education department, and Zhang Sheng, the director of the police station near the school, are both from the Jin family. Yin Meng was also shocked when she heard this, because it meant that there were almost no people around her whom she could trust. "Will you still help me?" Yin Meng looked at Xiao Chini pitifully with tears in her eyes. When a person is extremely sad, he or she will tend to have wild thoughts, and Yin Meng now thought of such a possibility. Xiao Chini invited her to dinner and told her everything because he wanted to leave her. "Am I not your fiancé?" Xiao Chini said jokingly. Just as Xiao Chen and Yin Meng were talking, the waiter came back. "Sir, please leave. Our place is booked." Chapter 12, Instant Kill. Hearing the waiter's words, Xiao Chini was a little annoyed. This was the first time he invited Yin Meng to dinner. If the final result was that the two of them were kicked out of the restaurant, how embarrassing it would be. "Bring up the dishes we just ordered, and we'll leave after we finish eating." Xiao Chini doesn't want to cause trouble, so his attitude now is still sincere. "Sir, this." The waiter looked embarrassed. Xiao Chini also noticed the waiter's dilemma and immediately stood up. Everyone was out there to make a living, so there was no need to make things difficult for them. Besides, the restaurant was booked and needed to be cleared out. This must have been the manager's intention, so there was no need to make things difficult for a waiter. Therefore, Xiao Chini stood up and prepared to seize the time to take Yin Meng to another restaurant. "By the way, who booked this restaurant? Your restaurant is quite high-end. The person who can book your restaurant must be of extraordinary status." Xiao Chini was about to leave and asked casually. "That's right. Most people can't afford to book our restaurant. The one who booked our restaurant this time is Jin Wenle, the only son of Jin Hongyuan, the third young master of the Jin family." Xiao Chini, who was about to leave, heard the waiter's words and sat down again. Xiao Chini is not the kind of person who cares about trivial matters. If it was someone else, it would be fine, but now the people who want to book the restaurant and clear it out are from the Jin family. So, Xiao Chini cannot leave no matter what. "Does your hotel understand first come, first served?" Xiao Chini motioned Yin Meng to sit down too. "Sir, this. Go get my order." After Xiao Chini finished saying this, he closed his eyes, and the fingers of his two hands kept making circles, as if he was resting his eyes and didn't want to listen to anything. "Xiao Chen, what's going on? Why can't you solve such a small matter? Why are there still guests here?" "Manager, The waiter named Xiao Chen was also in a dilemma. He didn't understand why Xiao Chini had clearly stood up and was about to leave, so why did he sit back down now? "You are a loser. You can't even handle such a small matter. Can't you see that young Master Jin is coming?" After being scolded, the waiter left feeling aggrieved. "Sir, our place has been booked. Please leave." The manager had a professional smile on his face as he said this. However, Yin Meng couldn't see much sincerity from his chubby face. "Xiao Chini." Yin Meng called out to Xiao Chini softly, and after she finished speaking, she remembered who Xiao Chini was pretending to be, but Xiao Chini pretended too well. Even Yin Meng, who had always been by Xiao Chini's side, was almost deceived by him. Xiao Chini slowly opened his eyes, yawned, and stretched, looking not in a hurry at all. The less anxious Xiao Chini acted, the more anxious the manager became. Little did they know that the young master of the Jin family would be arriving soon. That little ancestor was not someone to be trifled with. "Sir, please leave." While saying this, the manager looked at his watch again. "Well, why?" Xiao Chini pretended not to know and asked again. In fact, Xiao Chini was deliberately delaying time because he wanted to wait for Jin Hong Yuan's son. "Our place has been booked by someone else." Although the manager knew that the man in the shirt was just looking for trouble, he still explained it to her. "Was it packed before we came, or after we came?" Xiao Chini continued to ask. "After." When the manager was asked about this, the muscles on his face twitched unconsciously. It was obvious that he felt a little guilty. "Then serve me the food, I'll leave after I finish eating." "Sir, please do me a favor. The person who booked this place is from the Jin family. As long as you leave this time, I promise that next time you come here to eat, I will give you free food." The manager looked at his watch again. When he saw the time, he finally became completely anxious and began to give in. "Don't worry, with your service attitude, I will definitely not come next time, but today, I still have to finish my meal before leaving." Xiao Chini's extremely bachelorish words made Yin Meng, who was standing beside him, laugh. "Someone, get these two people out." When the manager realized that he couldn't get Xiao Chini to leave no matter what he said, he started to prepare for a hard approach. Not long after the manager finished speaking, more than 10 people lined up around Xiao Chini and his group. Those more than 10 people were all wearing security uniforms, holding batons, and looking at Xiao Chini and the other person with unfriendly eyes. A muscular man walked out from the crowd of security guards. Xiao Chini noticed that although this man was also wearing security uniform, his clothes were a little different from those of other security guards. Obviously, this man should be the security team leader. "Brother, you should just leave by yourself. It's not worth getting beaten up just for a meal." Looking at the dozen or so muscular men, Yin Meng was a little scared. Yin Meng looked at Xiao Chini and said, "How about we go? Yin Meng, sit down and remember to tell Uncle Chen what happened today, so that he can rest assured and leave you to me." Yin Meng widened her eyes. Could it be that Xiao Chini meant that he really had to eat here? But there are more than a dozen security guards here. Even if Xiao Chini was a soldier before, how could he possibly defeat so many people? "Are you going to do it one by one, or all together?" Xiao Chini stood up from his seat, looked at the dozen or so people in front of him, and rubbed his hands ready to fight. "I'll fight you first, and then we'll be bullied together." After saying that, the security captain didn't hesitate and punched Xiao Chini in the face. Xiao Chini moved his face slightly and nimbly avoided the security captain's punch. Immediately afterwards, Xiao Chini also punched forward, but Xiao Chini's speed was so fast that the security captain had no time to dodge and was hit hard in the stomach by Xiao Chini. Before the security captain could react, Xiao Chini had already circled behind him and hit the security captain's back with his elbow. The security captain fell down and no longer had the strength to fight. Xiao Chini dusted himself off and said the word, "You." "It's too weak. It's really not satisfying. It would be great if I could throw dozens of punches." Chapter 13, First Love. Originally, the security guards found it funny that Xiao Chini wanted to challenge so many of them alone, but now, when they saw that Xiao Chini defeated the most powerful security captain among them so easily, they were all dumbfounded. "How about it, is there anyone else who wants to fight next?" These security guards were just trying to make a living. Xiao Chini didn't have any deep hatred against them, so there was certainly no need for him to beat them all down. Xiao Chini defeated the security captain so cleanly and neatly, in fact, just to serve as a warning to others. The security guards looked at each other, but no one spoke, and no one came up to continue fighting. Of course, no one left without the security captain's order. The security captain lay on the ground and gasped for a few times. Then, he saw that none of his security men came to avenge him. He couldn't help but get angry. "What are you doing? Didn't you see your boss got beaten up? Come on, everyone." Under the loud urging of the security captain and his fierce pressure in the past, 2 or 3 more security guards finally rushed forward. However, their fate was the same as that of the security captain just now. They were also defeated effortlessly by Xiao Chini. "Anyone else?" Xiao Chini shouted loudly and took a few steps forward, scaring the security guards so much that they took several steps back. Yin Meng sneered a few times on the side. Even though there were so many security guards, they were frightened and took a few steps back by Xiao Chenyi's words. Now looking at Xiao Chenyi, he was really handsome. Unconsciously, the girl's innocent heart had been moved by Xiao Chenyi. A pampered girl, the school belle, and has excellent grades. Being rich, beautiful, and a top student is extremely attractive, but precisely because of this attraction, people feel that she is not someone they can approach easily. So, Yin Meng is quite lonely in school. But now, suddenly, a completely new type of person, whom Yin Meng had never met before, came to Yin Meng, and Yin Meng felt extremely curious. In addition, this man is Yin Meng's fiancé, so Yin Meng naturally has a special feeling for Xiao Chenyi. And now, Xiao Chenyi's heroic rescue of her several times made Yin Meng feel that Xiao Chenyi was becoming more and more attractive. Beep, beep. Just then, outside the hotel, the sound of a luxury car horn was heard. Rich people like this, as if they are afraid that others will not know they are coming. They have to honk their horn desperately when parking to attract the attention of the whole world. The moment the horn sounded outside, the security guards surrounding Xiao Chenyi no longer cared about arguing with Xiao Chenyi and rushed out the door. It was obvious that they were going to welcome this distinguished guest. Even the security captain and several others who were knocked to the ground by Xiao Chenyi endured the pain, got up, and walked outside. What are you going to do? Yin Meng looked at Xiao Chenyi with worry. Although Yin Meng now knew that Xiao Chenyi was very powerful, Jin Wenler was not an ordinary person. He was from the Jin family. The Jin family likes to make friends with people who know martial arts, so there may be a few martial artists around Jin Wenler. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Although Xiao Chenyi is also very powerful, that is when he is facing ordinary people. If he meets a legendary martial arts master, it is hard to say who will win or lose. Har har, isn't Xie Zhengfei sent by Jin Hongyuan to deal with you? I want to let Jin Hongyuan know how terrible the consequences will be if he bullies my woman, Xiao Chenyi. Who is your woman? Yin Meng shyly replied to Xiao Chenyi softly, and then her face flushed. Yin Meng, we are outside now. Don't forget that you and I are already engaged. Be careful that there are ears. Okay, I'm your woman, it's all right now. Well. Xiao Chenyi felt embarrassed. In the past, he thought that Shang Guanmai was the only woman in his life, but now, Xiao Chenyi only hated Shang Guanmai. And now, he suddenly had a wife out of nowhere. In his heart, Xiao Chenyi actually found it a little hard to accept. By the way, Yin Meng, you must never tell anyone about Teacher Xie. When Yin Meng heard Xiao Chenyi mention Teacher Xie, she turned back into her usual mischievous self. You really got the upper hand this time. Teacher Xie graduated from college last year and came to our school. Not only is she beautiful, but she also has strong teaching abilities. Having said that, Yin Meng paused, then smiled wickedly and continued. The main thing is, Teacher Xie, her private part is the biggest among all the teachers in the school. How is it? Do you feel it? Feel what? Xiao Chenyi had a confused look on his face, not sure if he really didn't understand what Yin Meng said or was just pretending to be stupid. Of course I feel that Teacher Xie Lan's place is very big. No. Xiao Chenyi denied it outright. He couldn't admit this. In name, he was still a student of Dormhai Middle School, while Teacher Xie Lan was a teacher of Dormhai Middle School. He couldn't have that kind of relationship with her. TSK, why are you pretending? You obviously touched me, but you're pretending not to know. Yin Meng curled her lips and showed a look of contempt towards Xiao Chenyi. I was careless at that time, okay? Besides, if it wasn't for helping you deal with Xie Zhengfei, would I have gone to the police station? If I hadn't gone to the police station, would I have done the same thing as Teacher Xie Lan? Please don't mention this matter again, okay? Yin Meng thought about it carefully and felt that Xiao Chenyi was not wrong. If it weren't for her, Xiao Chenyi would not have behaved like that. Therefore, Yin Meng felt even more guilty towards Xiao Chenyi. I won't say any more. Xiao Chenyi glanced at Yin Meng with some suspicion, secretly complaining in his heart, when did this little girl become so obedient? While Xiao Chenyi and Yin Meng were talking, there was a completely different scene outside the hotel. What? There are still 2 people who haven't been driven away. Idiots, really idiots. You can't drive them away. Can't you kick them out? That Jin Wenler was roaring loudly outside, spitting saliva everywhere, and sprayed the face of the manager who had just chased Xiao Chenyi and the others away. Hearing Jin Wenler's roar, the manager glared at the security captain. If the security captain wasn't a waste, and so many people couldn't beat Xiao Chini alone, how could he be scolded by Jin Wenle? Chapter 14 Solution. Young Master Jin, it's like this. The guest inside seems to know some martial arts. We just sent the entire security team to fight him, but we were no match for him, so. The Jin family now has a total of 3 generations, and the Jin family's entirety is still in the hands of old Master Jin, Jin Qianba. His 3 sons are called Young Master Jin by others. As for Jin Wenle, he is naturally called Little Master Jin by others. Although Jin Wenle really disliked this small word, he had no choice but to accept it. Useless. Manager Pang, you can replace all these security guards. They can't even beat one person. They are just useless. Lin Yuanshan, Yu Yuxing, Ma Xiuxian, the 3 of you go in and get those 2 people out. Yes. Behind Jin Wenle, 3 people came out in response. 2 of them were wearing white clothes and 1 was wearing black clothes. They flashed and entered the hotel. The 3 of them looked around the hotel. Now, their hotel was very empty. Except for Xiao Chini and Yin Meng, there was no one else inside, because everyone else had gone outside the hotel to greet Jin Wenle. Therefore, the 3 people saw Xiao Chini and Yin Meng in the hotel at a glance. When the 3 people looked over, Xiao Chini also noticed them. Here comes trouble. After Xiao Chini murmured something softly, he stood out and stood in front of Yin Meng. Sit there and don't move. R. Yin Meng let out an R as if she didn't understand. No matter what happens, you just sit there and don't move. Do you hear me? This time, Xiao Chini's voice was obviously much louder, and his tone was even tougher. Oh, okay, be careful. Xiao Chini looked at the 3 people slowly approaching, then turned back and smiled at Yin Meng. Why, you care about me? Yeah, no, yes. Yin Meng first said yes subconsciously, then shyly denied it immediately. Then, as if she was afraid that Xiao Chini would be unhappy, she kept saying yes. Of course, Xiao Chini couldn't think so much about Yin Meng's childish mentality, and he didn't have time to think so much, because Lin Yuanshan, Yu Yuxing, Ma Xiuxian and the other 3 came to Xiao Chini in the blink of an eye. Boy, I told you to get out, so you got out. If you don't want to get out, then prepare to be beaten up. Xiao Chini spread his hands and said helplessly. Yeah, that's right. If I tell you to get out, then you should get out. Now the 3 of you should get out. What did you say, kid? Regarding what Xiao Chini said, Lin Yuanshan, Yu Yuxing, and Ma Xiuxian all thought that their ears were broken and they must have heard it wrongly. Look, I told you 3 to get out. If you don't get out, then there's nothing I can do. You 3 will have to suffer a beating. Listening to what Xiao Chini said, Yin Meng sat there, covering her mouth, and almost laughed out loud. These words that Xiao Chini said were clearly what Lin Yuanshan, Yu Yuxing, and Ma Xiuxian said to Xiao Chini just now, but now Xiao Chini returned them to Lin Yuanshan, Yu Yuxing, and Ma Xiuxian. After making a joke, Xiao Chini did not delay and took the first step. After all, Xiao Chini was alone, while there were these 3 people on the opposite side. I don't know how Xiao Chini trained his speed. Before the 3 people on the opposite side could react, Lin Yuanshan, Yu Yuxing, and Ma Xiuxian were the first to fall down. Yu Yuxing and Ma Xiuxian, seeing that the situation was not good, immediately took action, and it was 2 against 1. In fact, Xiao Chini knocked down Lin Yuanshan so quickly and cleanly just to force Yu Yuxing and Ma Xiuxian to join forces to fight him alone. If Xiao Chini was the only one here, then Xiao Chini wouldn't mind slowly wasting time with the 3 people in front of him, but besides him, there was also Yin Meng here. If those 3 people come together to deal with him, Xiao Chini is still confident that he can defeat all 3 of them. But if the 3 people chose 2 people to deal with him and the other 1 to deal with Yin Meng, that would be bad. Therefore, Xiao Chini would use thundering means to knock down one of the 3 people first. After seeing how powerful Xiao Chini was, the other 2 people, of course, didn't dare to fight Xiao Chini one-on-one. So, Yin Meng, who was behind him, was naturally safe. While fighting with those 2 men, Xiao Chini discovered one thing, that is, these 2 men also knew the Plum Blossom Fist of Plum Blossom Mana. This further confirmed Xiao Chini's idea that Shi Jingfei was sent by the Jin family. Xiao Chini punched Yu Yuxing, and at the same time, using the recoil force, kicked Ma Xiuxian in the stomach. Ma Xiuxian was obviously much weaker than Yuxing. After a while, he was knocked to the ground by Xiao Chini and had no strength to get up. Xiao Chini took a stance and looked at Yu Yuxing, the only one still standing among the three, and smiled coldly. Why, are you still fighting? Yu Yuxing looked at the person lying on the ground. Lin Yuanshan and Ma Xiuxian couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. No more fighting. Xiao Chini put aside his ferocious look and said, Go and invite your young master Jin Wenler from the Jin family over here. What do you want to do? Yu Yuxing, who had been relaxed, became nervous after hearing what Xiao Chini said. It would be fine if they were just beaten up, but Jin Wenler had a special identity. He was a member of the Jin family. If something happened to Jin Wenler here, Yu Yuxing and the other two would definitely suffer endless revenge from the Jin family. Don't be so nervous. The Jin family is a big family. In fact, I have wanted to make friends with the Jin family for a long time, but I just didn't have the way. But today, I happened to hear that the young master of the Jin family, Jin Wenler, came. That's why I wanted to stay and knock down a few of you to show my strength to the Jin family. Yu Yuxing nodded repeatedly after hearing what Xiao Chini said. The Jin family did like to make friends with people who knew martial arts, but the Jin family was rich and powerful, and not everyone could make friends with them. Now, Xiao Chini said that he was trying his best to stay just to make friends with the Jin family. Yu Yuxing thought about it and felt that it made perfect sense, so he nodded immediately and went out to invite Jin Wenler. Chapter 15. Be careful, the road is not easy to walk at night. Looking at Yu Yuxing's back as she walked out the door, Xiao Chini whispered in his heart. Humph, Jin Hongyuan, if you dare to send people to deal with Yin Meng, you must be prepared for your son to be dealt with as well. Xiao Chini turned his head and looked at Yin Meng, who was sitting there. He nodded at her without saying anything. Yin Meng is also a smart person. She understands what Xiao Chini said. What Xiao Chini said about wanting to make friends with the Jin family is complete nonsense. Yin Meng completely believes this. If Xiao Chini really wanted to make friends with the Jin family, he could just hand himself over. Wouldn't that be more sincere? What's more important is that Yin Meng felt that Xiao Chini was someone she could completely trust and someone she could rely on 100%. Not long after, Jin Wenler walked into their hotel. When he looked at Xiao Chini, he was arrogant and looked as if he didn't take Xiao Chini seriously at all. Xiao Chini smiled and slowly walked towards Jin Wenler. When he stood in front of Jin Wenler, he stretched out his right hand. Jin Wenler glanced at Xiao Chini, then asked Yu Yuxing beside him. Is he really as powerful as you say? Yes, definitely. Even if Lin Yuanshan, Ma Xiuxian and I join forces, we are no match for him. If Master Jin, you can introduce such a master to the family, your status in the family will definitely be higher in the future. After hearing Yu Yuxing say that he could improve his status by introducing Xiao Chini to the family, Jin Wenler seemed to be much happier. So he quickly stretched out his hand to shake hands with Xiao Chini. However, at this moment, Xiao Chini did something that surprised everyone. Xiao Chini grabbed Jin Wenler's hand, then threw him to the ground over his shoulder, and then punched him hard in the stomach. What are you doing? After Xiao Chini did all this, Yu Yuxing finally reacted. This is enough to show how quick and decisive Xiao Chini was when he took action. Yu Yuxing took a step forward and was about to save Jin Wenler. But at this time, Xiao Chini had already caught Jin Wenler in his hands. You'd better stop. Otherwise, it will be hard for me to guarantee that young Master Jin won't get into bigger trouble. Hearing Xiao Chini's threat, Yu Yuxing had no choice but to stop. Your name is Jin Wenler. Xiao Chini looked at Jin Wenler and asked. Jin Wenler raised his head and looked at Xiao Chini, gritting his teeth, his heart full of resentment, but thinking about how he had just been beaten by this man. In the end, he gave up resisting, then Jin Wenler nodded and said yes. Still a student. Jin Wenler nodded again. Which school do you study in? The number 1 noble middle school in Donghai City. Xiao Chini nodded, indicating that he understood. Both are high school students. Yin Meng is in a public school and is a very low-key person. But Jin Wenler not only studied in a private aristocratic high school, but also had such a grand dinner. Xiao Chini was very unhappy about this. Why was it that when I was in the army, I worked so hard and braved the hail of bullets, but only got such a meager salary? Even if I died for my country, I only got a little bit of pension. What's the use of such a small amount of pension? A family without a man, his wife and his children, it is impossible for them to gain a foothold in society relying on such a small amount of pension. In the past, Xiao Chini had seen many of his comrades who had sacrificed their lives. Their families collapsed after their deaths. Xiao Chini always remembers that soldiers are born to defend their country, but what soldiers have to protect is definitely not a family like the Jin family, which is rotten to the core. Xiao Chini pushed Jin Wenler away. Since he already knew everything he wanted to know, there was no need for Xiao Chini to continue to embarrass Jin Wenler. Jin Wenler, when you go back, tell your dad something. What? Although he was released by Xiao Chini, Jin Wenler was still very afraid of Xiao Chini. Jin Wenler knew that the man in front of him and none of the people around him were his match. If he wanted to, he could still capture him back. Be careful, the road is hard to walk on at night. After listening to Xiao Chini's words, Jin Wenler had some guesses. No wonder the man in front of him treated him like this. It turned out that his father had offended him a long time ago. Also, talk to him. If he dares to hire someone to deal with others, then he should be careful. One day, his son might be dealt with by others. When that happens, be careful that he will have no descendants. Xiao Chini's words made Jin Wenler feel a chill down his spine. Telling his father to be careful that he would have no descendants, wouldn't that be the same as killing him? Jin Wenler thought, he was still young, he hadn't enjoyed the happiness he should have, and he hadn't played with the women he should have, so how could he die? At that moment, Jin Wenler no longer cared about his face. He knelt down and begged Xiao Chini again and again. Brother, I was wrong. No, sir, I was wrong. Jin Wenler kept admitting his mistakes and slapping himself in the face. Xiao Chini didn't even look at Jin Wenler, turned around and returned to Yin Meng's side. Someone, serve the food. At this moment, the manager who looked down on Xiao Chini and wanted to drive him away was also in a difficult situation. On one side is the powerful Jin family, and on the other side is the martial arts master who came from nowhere and made Jin Wenler kneel down and admit his mistakes. No matter which side he offends, he will not have a good ending. However, as the saying goes, a wise man never suffers a loss in front of him. He can think of other ways to deal with the Jin family, but the man in front of him is the kind of person who would use fists when he disagrees with someone. There is no need for him to offend him now. Therefore, after receiving the manager's instructions, Xiao Chini and his team served the dishes much faster. After finishing his meal and wiping his mouth, Xiao Chini looked at the banana in front of him and the glass of milk in front of Yin Meng, and couldn't help but smile slightly. Want to eat? Xiao Chini pointed at the glass of milk and said to Yin Meng. Eat, why not eat? Eat whatever you want to replenish your body. Xiao Chini smiled and picked up the banana in front of him. Yes, you will get what you want from what you eat. Then, the two smiled at each other and finished their bananas and milk. Manager, pay the bill. Speaking of paying the bill, Xiao Chini sighed secretly and took out his bank card. When the manager saw that Xiao Chini and the others had finally finished eating and were asking for the bill, he hurried over. Chapter 16 Teacher Xiaolan. Pay the bill. Xiao Chini looked at the manager standing next to him, who had become as obedient as a kitten. He couldn't help but sneer. Then he took out a bank card and handed it to the manager. But the manager did not reach out to take the bank card. What's wrong? Xiao Chini couldn't understand the manager's behavior. The manager didn't accept his bank card. Could it be that he wanted to give it to him for free? Sir, young Master Jin has already paid for your meal. But he asked if he could use the money to buy his life. He said that if you have a grudge against the Jin family, you can deal with other people in the Jin family besides him. He is willing to provide the school addresses of other young masters of the Jin family. Xiao Chini took back the bank card and turned to look at Jin Wenler's place. When Jin Wenler saw Xiao Chini looking at him, he quickly smiled. Well, ask him to give me the addresses of the others. Hearing Xiao Chini's instructions, the manager hurriedly did as he was told. Not long after, a piece of paper appeared in Xiao Chini's hand. The paper was full of the addresses of the young masters of the Jin family. Jin Yushu, Donghai City No. 1 Experimental Middle School. Jin Liangsai, Donghai City Elite High School. Jin Letong, Donghai Qinjiao Senior High School. Looking at the extremely detailed information in his hand, Xiao Chini looked down upon these young masters of the Jin family from the bottom of his heart. Each of them was willing to sell out their family members for their own sake. Such people could no longer be called human beings. Let's go. Xiao Chini put away the paper which could be of great use in the future, and then left the hotel with Yin Meng. After Xiao Chini left, Jin Wenle started to get furious. He threw cups and pounded tables in the restaurant and shouted orders. No one is allowed to tell anyone about what happened today. If anyone dares to tell anyone, I will kill him. After destroying things for a while, Jin Wenle's anger probably finally subsided a little. Then, Jin Wenle found a seat and sat down, breathing heavily a few times. Looking at the manager, he cursed again. With such a powerful person here, why didn't you inform me not to come? Then, Jin Wenle looked at Yu Yuxing again. Didn't you say that he wanted to join our Jin family? The more Jin Wenle thought about it, the angrier he became. He picked up the ashtray on the table and smashed it on Yu Yuxing's head. Clang! With a loud bang, the ashtray hit Yu Yuxing's head, and immediately, bright red blood flowed out. But Yu Yuxing seemed not to feel any pain. He just stood there, not daring to speak at all. Go check it out. Get all the information about that man. I want him dead. No, I want him to live a life worse than death. Hearing Jin Wenle's yet another round of raw, everyone in the hotel held their breath, not even daring to breathe. However, Xiao Chini and Yin Meng returned to school openly in this way. By now, almost everyone in Donghai Middle School knows that there is a transfer student named Xiao Chini, who successfully saved the beauty Yin Meng, who was ranked 10th on the school bell list, on his first day. Of course, there are also rumors that Xiao Chini and Yin Meng have already confirmed their relationship. It's just that some people believe it and some don't. Those who believe it say that they saw Xiao Chini leaving the school with Yin Meng, while those who don't believe it say that maybe they just happened to be going the same way, or maybe they just wanted to express their gratitude. Xiao Chini and Yin Meng walked into the classroom together under the gaze of the whole class. At this moment, there were whispers of discussion in the classroom, and of course there were a few people pointing fingers at Xiao Chini and Yin Meng. However, Xiao Chini didn't care about these things at all. However, Xiao Chini still had to consider Yin Meng's feelings, so he asked with concern. Do you need me to explain anything? Yin Meng shook her head. When Uncle Chen told her to pretend to be engaged to Xiao Chini and then let Xiao Chini go to school to protect her, he had actually expected that this day would come. Therefore, Yin Meng was still mentally prepared. No, you'll only make things worse if you explain it more. Xiao Chini nodded. Indeed, it was okay if this kind of thing was not explained. Everyone would get used to it and it would be nothing. But if you really have to make an explanation, then it will only make things worse. Ding-a-ling. Fortunately, after a while, the bell for the afternoon class rang. Classmates, even if you have a lot to say, you have to wait until the next day. Xiao Chini looked outside the classroom door and saw a female teacher walking in. The female teacher happened to look over and their eyes met Xiao Chini's. When Xiao Chini and the female teacher met each other's eyes, both of them couldn't help but blush. Because the female teacher who walked in was Teacher Xiaolan, who was accidentally touched in a certain part of the body by Xiao Chini in the morning. Har har, nice to see you again. Yin Meng, who was standing next to Xiao Chini, seemed to have discovered this as well. She was there, gloating in a low voice. Xiao Chini glared at Yin Meng, and Yin Meng became a little more obedient. Teacher Xiaolan lowered her head, walked to the podium, and coughed lightly to ease her embarrassment. Attend class. Bang bang bang. As soon as Teacher Xiaolan finished saying this, she heard someone knocking on the door. Teacher Xiaolan looked outside the door and saw a security guard standing there, and Xiao Chini knew this security guard. That security guard was the one who wanted to protect Yin Meng when Shi Jingfei and his gang came to cause trouble in the morning, but was finally scared away by Shi Jingfei. Are you okay? Teacher Xiaolan is a very gentle person. No matter who she is dealing with, even a security guard, Teacher Xiaolan is always very humble. It's Teacher Xiaolan. It was precisely because of Teacher Xiaolan's character that the security guard left a very deep impression on her. Teacher Xiaolan, it's like this. Director Gao Xing asked me to inform Xiao Chini from your class to go to the political education department to accept punishment for beating someone. Originally, the security guard should not have said these words, but the one who asked him what was the matter was Teacher Xiaolan, who always treated the security brothers very well, so the security guard told them everything that Director Gao Xing was going to do. Chapter 17 Punishment. As expected, the security guard's words immediately caused an uproar in the classroom. It was said that Xiao Chini would be punished by the school's political and educational department for beating someone. Although Xiao Chini snatched away the goddess in their hearts, who was ranked 10th on the Dornhai Middle School beauty list, as soon as he arrived. Everyone was envious, jealous and hateful, but no matter what, Xiao Chini successfully saved Yin Meng, their goddess. And now the goddess's savior is being punished for saving people. No matter what everyone said, we couldn't agree to it. Xiao Chini is a good person, the school cannot punish him. Xiao Chini is a hero. The school should reward him. How can they punish him? I am against the school's punishment of Xiao Chini. Yes, I object too. I will report it to the Education Bureau. I want to expose it to the media. The classmates were all indignant, and Xiao Chini was very moved by what he heard. It was as if he had returned to the army and to the comrades who had always cared about him. Classmates, everyone go to class first. I'm going to the political and educational office first. The punishment won't be issued overnight. I still need to apply to the principal's office. Let's talk about it after class. Xiao Chini stood up and spoke openly. He was already very moved that these classmates could say such words. But this matter is extraordinary. Behind this matter, there is a huge conflict of interest. Xiao Chini saw it at a glance. This is Director Gao Xing taking revenge on his personal grudge. And since Director Gao Xing in this school is a member of the Jin family, then I wonder how many people hiding in the dark are also members of the Jin family. Xiao Chini is not afraid of people who are in the open, but he is afraid of those who hide in the dark and like to attack others from behind. Xiao Chini walked straight to the door, and the moment he stood up, Yin Meng suddenly grabbed Xiao Chini's hand. Would you like me to come with you? Xiao Chini looked at Yin Meng, and saw a hint of worry in Yin Meng's tearful eyes. Xiao Chini smiled, let go of Yin Meng's hand, and said something. If I can't even solve this little thing, how can I protect you? Then, Xiao Chini left without looking back. However, when Xiao Chini passed by Teacher Xiaolan, he nodded to her and said, Teacher Xiaolan, I'll go out for a while. After Xiao Chini said this, Teacher Xiaolan's pretty face blushed slightly again. In this way, a subtle feeling that was difficult to explain arose between Xiao Chini and Teacher Xiaolan. Following the security guard, Xiao Chini soon arrived at the Political Education Department office. In the office of the Political and Educational Department, Director Gao Xing sat in the center, and next to him sat several muscular men. Judging from the clothes these people are wearing, they should be the school's physical education teachers. Xiao Chini smiled coldly. Director Gao Xing was obviously feeling guilty. Was he afraid that he would beat him up in school? Xiao Chini, you beat someone up for no reason at school. Now we are discussing how to punish you for this matter. Do you have anything to say? As soon as Xiao Chini walked into the office of the Political and Educational Department, Director Gao Xing couldn't wait to put a high hat on Xiao Chini and punish him. No reason. Xiao Chini repeated the word, for no reason, and then glanced coldly at Director Gao Xing. Director Gao Xing was caught in Xiao Chini's gaze and broke out in a cold sweat on his back. Why, you don't want to plead guilty? Xiao Chini walked to the sofa in the office and sat down without any courtesy. Director Gao Xing, you are accusing me of beating people for no reason and asking me to confess my guilt. What? Director Gao Xing, are you going to take me out and shoot me? How can you talk like that, classmate? And who told you to sit down? Next to Director Gao Xing, a physical education teacher nodded and bowed to Director Gao Xing. Then, the physical education teacher stood up and walked towards Xiao Chini. Xiao Chini glanced around and saw a mineral water bottle cap on the ground under his feet. Xiao Chini kicked the bottle cap lightly, and it flew out along the ground. Then, the physical education teacher happened to step on the bottle cap. Somehow, a small bottle cap caused the physical education teacher to trip. The physical education teacher just ate shit in front of everyone. The physical education teacher endured the pain and the ridicule of others. He stood up and pointed at Xiao Chini, but was so angry that he couldn't utter a word. You. Well, what's wrong with me? Xiao Chini opened his eyes wide and looked at the physical education teacher with an innocent face. You tripped me with the water bottle cap. Hearing what the physical education teacher said, Xiao Chini's face was filled with surprise, and his expression was as exaggerated as it could be. Teacher, you are saying that as a physical education teacher, you will fall down if you trip over a mineral water bottle cap when walking. Oh, teacher, is there something wrong with your body, or do you have a terminal illness? Otherwise, how can your physical fitness be so fragile? Oh, with such a fragile physical fitness, how can you insist on being a physical education teacher? The expression on Xiao Chenyi's face was extremely exaggerated. In the end, he even gave the physical education teacher a thumbs up. But the physical education teacher became angrier the more he listened, especially when he noticed that several other teachers were also looking at him with suspicion. He became even angrier. The physical education teacher slammed the door and walked out. He was very regretful. There were so many physical education teachers in the political education office. Why did he have to stand out? Now, instead of making a breakthrough, I have become a laughingstock. Director Gao Sheng, do you want me to plead guilty or admit my mistakes? If I plead guilty, I'm afraid Director Gao Sheng doesn't have the right to do so. As for admitting my mistakes, I can't think of what I did wrong. Director Gao Sheng slammed the table and shouted loudly. Xiao Chenyi, don't be ungrateful. You were taken to the police station for what happened today. Do you know how much impact it will have on the reputation of our school? Therefore, you must be punished today. When Xiao Chenyi heard what Director Gao Sheng said, he realized that he was just making excuses. Yes, I agree with this. Going to the police station will indeed have an impact on the reputation of the school. Director Gao Sheng couldn't help but smile when he saw that Xiao Chenyi was finally willing to plead guilty. However, what Xiao Chenyi said next almost made Director Gao Sheng faint from anger. Then Director Gao Sheng, you didn't go to the police station, so what kind of punishment do you plan to give yourself? Chapter 18 Expulsion. Hearing Xiao Chenyi's rebuttal, Director Gao Sheng was stunned for a moment. It is said that Xiao Chenyi was taken to the police station and affected the reputation of the school, so he had to accept punishment. Then didn't Director Gao Sheng also go to the police station? He did. According to this logic, he also affected the reputation of the school, so shouldn't Director Gao Sheng also be subject to punishment? Director Gao Sheng cannot accept this. His ambition is not small. A small director of the political and educational department cannot fully satisfy Gao Sheng's desire for power. Gao Sheng's goal is to become the principal of Donghai Middle School. Moreover, Director Gao Sheng is the youngest in the entire school leadership team. Therefore, after the old principal retires, he has the greatest hope of becoming the next principal. But if he is punished now and there is a stain on his career, then his future will be completely ruined. Therefore, when Xiao Chenyi said that he should also be punished, Director Gao Sheng began to hate Xiao Chenyi extremely. He had made things difficult for Xiao Chenyi in the past because of the Jin family, but now, it was for his own sake that he hated Xiao Chenyi extremely strongly. Director Gao Sheng slammed the table again. Xiao Chenyi, don't quibble. You were taken to the police station because of a fight, and I was just sent by the school to clean up the mess for you. I now officially announce that for the sake of the school's reputation, you are expelled. Director Gao Sheng hadn't finished speaking when he was stopped by Xiao Chenyi's low mutterings. Gao Xiaowen, Class 2, Grade 3, Donghai No. 1 Primary School. What did you say? Director Gao Sheng stopped the decision on the punishment of Xiao Chenyi and asked what Xiao Chenyi had just said. Nothing, Director Gao Sheng, you have to think about it. I am still your student now, so of course you can control me, but when I am expelled from school, I will no longer be your student. By then, if I do something out of line, I won't know it myself. You threaten me. Director Gao Sheng gritted his teeth, and bloodshot appeared in his eyes. No, I didn't say anything. Oh, I haven't finished yet. Gao Xiaowu, 2nd grade at Yingsai Primary School in Donghai City. That's enough. At this moment, Director Gao Sheng also became anxious and immediately stopped Xiao Chenyi from continuing speaking. Hey, Director Gao, don't you only have Gao Xiaowen as your son? Then who is this Gao Xiaowu? Director Gao Sheng was furious at this time, but he still suppressed his anger, put on a smile, and then said, I don't know who Gao Xiaowu is either. You can ask him. Then, everyone looked at Xiao Chenyi. Xiao Chenyi also smiled and continued. Director Gao Sheng, there are 2 test papers in your shirt pocket. Gao Xiaowen and Gao Xiaowu both scored 100 points. Director Gao Sheng, why don't you take them out and share them with everyone so that we can be happy together? In order to prevent any accidents, Xiao Chenyi quietly turned on his X-ray vision when entering the political and educational office, so he saw the 2 test papers. When seeing the two test papers, Xiaochuni was actually a little confused. From the names Gao Xiaowen and Gao Xiaowu, you can tell that they are brothers. The brothers are almost the same age and are so young. Why does director Gao Xing let these two children study in two different schools? It's so troublesome to pick up and drop off children from school. Now, Xiaochuni understood that Gao Xiaowu was actually director Gao Xing's illegitimate son. The teachers in the political and educational office were not idiots. They could certainly think of what Xiaochuni could think of. At that moment, they were all a little embarrassed. Fortunately, one of the teachers spoke up, breaking the silence and the awkwardness. Director Gao Sheng, I think this student Xiaochuni's problem can't be solved in a short time. Why don't we solve it in a few days? I happen to have classes now, so I'll leave. When Director Gao Sheng heard the teacher say this, he knew that he was trying to save himself and did not stop him. Immediately afterwards, the teachers all found excuses to leave. Director Gao Sheng, how about it? Should I continue to stay here and accept your review, or should I leave too? Director Gao Sheng looked at Xiaochuni's smiling face and his face turned red and green with anger. With a final wave of his hand, he let Xiaochuni leave. Xiaochuni stood up and spoke very politely to Director Gao Sheng. Director Gao Sheng, don't worry. I will admit my mistakes. Whenever you think of me, just let someone notify me. I will be there whenever you call. Director Gao Sheng looked at Xiaochuni hatefully, unable to utter a word. When Xiaochuni returned to the classroom, it was time for the get out of class to end. When walking into the classroom, Xiaochuni did not see teacher Xiaolan. For some reason, he felt a little lonely. However, this feeling of loneliness was quickly dispelled by the earnest caring voices of my classmates. Xiaochuni, how is it, did you receive any punishment? Xiaochuni, you're not really going to be punished for being a hero and saving a beautiful girl, are you? Damn it, this school is so unfair. I'm going to go talk to Director Gao Sheng. Listening to his classmates' caring words, Xiaochuni felt inexplicably touched. Students, listen to me. Suddenly, there was silence in the classroom. Director Gao Sheng was originally planning to expel me from the school. Expelled. Before Xiaochuni finished speaking, there was another round of chatter in the classroom. Students, listen to me. Director Gao Sheng originally wanted to expel me from school, but something happened. I don't think I will be expelled now, but I still might be punished. What should we do then? So, the students started a crazy discussion again. However, in Xiaochuni's opinion, their methods are somewhat impractical. Director Gao Sheng wanted to punish me because he was a member of the Jin family. Therefore, if I didn't expel Director Gao Sheng from the school and avoided this punishment several times, then the next punishment would come immediately. If Director Gao Sheng wanted to find some evidence on himself that could lead to punishment, it would be too easy. Moreover, even if you can't find any evidence, you can still create one by force. Therefore, if we want to solve this problem, we must start from the source and kick Director Gao Sheng out of the school directly. I have a solution now, I wonder if you are willing to help me. Chapter 19 Principal Wang Qi. Yes, of course. Director Gao Sheng is not a good person. What he likes most is to curry favor with the children of rich families and suppress the children of poor families. We have been displeased with him for a long time. Listening to what this classmate said, Xiaochuni nodded secretly. Director Gao Sheng was indeed such a person, trying to curry favor with the powerful and looking down on others. Xiaochuni looked down on such people from the bottom of his heart. Xiaochuni himself does not have a high level of education, but after all, Xiaochuni received 3 years of military education. The military is the best at educating people, and there is such an education within the military. The lives of others are more important than your own life. Soldiers should be willing to sacrifice themselves to rescue others. In Xiaochuni's heart, everyone is equal, no matter if they are rich or poor. In Xiaochuni's eyes, everyone is equal, just like when Xiaochuni is fighting against disasters, he will not save a person first because he is rich. Of course, he will not save a person later because he is poor. Therefore, Xiaochuni became more and more disgusted with people like Director Gao Sheng. Xiaochuni looked around, and then his eyes fell on the 3 girls in the class. These 3 girls all seem to be the type who are obedient, quiet and submissive. However, just as Xiaochuni was looking at these 3 female classmates, Yin Meng came up again. Why are you attracted to these three little girls? Xiao Chini was thinking about how to deal with director Gao Sheng, so he subconsciously hummed and nodded. Immediately afterwards, Xiao Chini realized that he seemed to have said something wrong. No, it's not what you think. I'm attracted to these three people because they can help me deal with director Gao Sheng. Xiao Chini's explanation made everyone suddenly realize, but everyone still had a question, that is, there were so many boys in the class, why did Xiao Chini choose these three girls? Then, Xiao Chini told everyone the method he had thought of to deal with director Gao Sheng. Everyone burst into laughter when they heard it. Xiao Chini's method is really enough to make director Gao Sheng drink a lot of water. Just do it. Xiao Chini brought the three girls and gently came to the front of director Gao Sheng's office. Go in and do what we agreed upon. Don't worry, I'll be outside. Then, the three girls walked into director Gao Sheng's office. Xiao Chini also turned on his X-ray vision and closely watched every move in the political education department's office. Hello, Director Gao. The three girls walked into the office of the political and educational department and bowed to Director Gao Sheng. Director Gao Sheng put down what he was holding, raised his head and looked at the three girls. Who are you? Reporting to Director Gao, the three of us are students in Class 1 of Senior 3. Today, a fight broke out in our class. The three of us feel that this matter is particularly serious, and the three of us are also scared. That Xiao Chini who joined the class is too brutal. After hearing what these three girls said, Director Gao Sheng suddenly became excited. You mean, you are willing to testify that Xiao Chini fought for no reason? Director Gao, it is true that there was a fight, but how can it be said to be without cause? Director Gao Sheng stood up and walked to the three girls. All of this was seen clearly by Xiao Chini who had his X-ray eyes turned on. At this time, Xiao Chini nodded to Yin Meng and others in the distance. Then, Yin Meng also started to take action. I saw several boys in Xiao Chini's class pulling boys from other classes, saying that they wanted to play basketball together, and then they went to the school sports department to borrow basketballs. And to go to the school sports department from their place, you will pass by the political and educational office. Seeing that everything was ready, Xiao Chini hurried away and hid in the dark. However, Xiao Chini's X-ray vision is still on. Does Xiao Chini have to be ready to rescue those three girls at any time? Director Gao, it's not without reason. It was those people from outside the school who started the trouble first. I have no control over people outside the school, but students should behave like students. Since Xiao Chini hit someone, he did it for no reason. The three of you should think back and see if Xiao Chini hit someone for no reason. As he spoke, Director Gao Sheng took another step forward. R. At this moment, the three girls suddenly screamed and rushed out of Director Gao Sheng's office. Director Gao Sheng couldn't help but shake his head when he saw the looks of the three girls. It seemed that they were all scared. He asked them to recall and they found out that this was the case. The three girls rushed out of the political education office and met the boys from Xiao Chini's class, as well as other boys from other classes who were pulled over by these boys to play basketball. Hey, what happened to you three? Why did you scream just now? Hey, why are you three crying again? The three girls wiped away their tears and spoke with sobs. Director Gao, Director Gao. The three girls said just these few words and then started crying again. Then they ran away without looking back. Director Gao. Those boys repeated these three words, then looked at the door of the political education department office from a distance and shook their heads. I didn't expect that, Director Gao. What, Director Gao? Oh, what a beast. A beast in human form. The news that Director Gao bullied three girls in the political and educational office and that he had an illegitimate child outside spread throughout the campus within a few hours. When Xiao Chini and his classmates were in their third class in the afternoon, someone finally came outside the classroom to notify them. Xiao Chini, Yin Meng, Tang Chuqiu, Song Yu, Lin Zhizhi, the five of you, come to the principal's office. Xiao Chini looked at the other four girls, Tang Chuqiu, Song Yu and Lin Zhizhi, the three girls who walked out of the political education department office crying, and said softly, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Hearing Xiao Chini's words, the girls all nodded. Walking into the principal's office, Xiao Chini saw the principal sitting there at a glance, and then he murmured something unconsciously. Wang Qi. The other three girls didn't pay much attention to what Xiao Chini said, but Yin Meng heard it. Why, do you know Principal Wang Qi? Chapter 20, Downfall. Xiao Chini nodded, then strode in. Since the principal of Donghai Middle School is Wang Qi, Xiao Chini feels much more at ease. Principal Wang Qi looked over and saw Xiao Chini. Xiao Chini. Principal Wang Qi shouted subconsciously. Of course, no one except Xiao Chini, Yin Meng and Principal Wang Qi could hear the other meaning in Principal Wang Qi's words. Here, Principal, I am Xiao Chini. After hearing what Xiao Chini said, Principal Wang Qi realized that there seemed to be some problems with what he had just said. Well, you all take a seat. Principal Wang Qi waved his hand, motioning Xiao Chini and the others to sit down. Principal Wang, Xiao Chini let the wrong student go. How can we let him sit? Seeing Principal Wang Qi asking Xiao Chini and others to sit down, Director Gao Shen couldn't help but speak. Gao Shen, pay attention. We are discussing your problem now. Also, do you usually make your classmates stand like this? This is corporal punishment. You are discrediting our country's quality education efforts. Next to Principal Wang Qi, an old man wearing a pair of black-rimmed glasses and looking very cultured spoke. Come, let me introduce you. This is Director Yang from the Education Bureau. After hearing about what happened in our school, he came here to investigate the matter and bring justice to you. Your name is Xiao Chini. The old man looked at Xiao Chini and asked. Yes. Very good, you sacrificed yourself for others and stood up to protect your classmates. This is very much in line with the style of our older generation of revolutionary pioneers. You deserve praise, but if you encounter such a thing in the future, remember to protect yourself first. Yes. When saying yes, Xiao Chini put in extra effort and even stood up from his position. Director Yang said that Xiao Chini's words, in order to save his classmates, were like the old generation of revolutionary pioneers. In the ears of other people, this was nothing, but in the ears of Xiao Chini, who was once a soldier, it was the greatest praise. Therefore, Xiao Chini was so excited. Well, very good, sit down. Xiao Chini's actions seemed very comfortable for this already very old man. The old man turned to look at Principal Wang Qi and said, Good boy, he is really a good boy. Your school must train him well. In the future, he will definitely be a solid proletarian fighter. Report. The old man described him as a proletarian fighter, so Xiao Chini felt that he still needed to say a few words. Good boy, what do you want to say? The old man turned to look at Xiao Chini with a smile on his face, as if he saw the future of the country. I haven't done enough. I can't compare to the old revolutionary pioneers. I think saving lives is also necessary. If everyone has the idea that the lives of others are more important than their own lives, then the world will become a much better place. After listening to Xiao Chini's words, the old man couldn't help but stand up and applaud. Good kid, at your age, it's already very good to have such awareness. The old man stood up and applauded, and almost everyone in the room stood up and applauded. Everyone sit down. The old man waved his hand, motioning for everyone to sit down. At this time, Director Gao Shen gritted his teeth in hatred. The more the old man praised Xiao Chini, the more uncomfortable he felt. Xiao Chini, I heard that Gao Shen has already talked to you about your rescue. Xiao Chini nodded and said. Yes, Director Gao said that I beat others without reason and should be fired, imprisoned, or even shot. Moreover, he brought several physical education teachers with him to threaten me viciously. After hearing what Xiao Chini said, Principal Wang Qi laughed secretly in his heart. Others may not know Xiao Chini, but Wang Qi knows Xiao Chini. Xiao Chini is the captain of the Qianlong Special Forces. Not to mention a few unarmed physical education teachers, even terrorists with guns and live ammunition may not be able to scare Xiao Chini back. What? Intimidation? Call those physical education teachers here. When Principal Wang Qi heard the old man say this, he hurriedly gave orders. Principal Wang Qi glanced at Xiao Chini, and he suddenly felt that today, Director Gao Shen, the person most likely to succeed him in the future, might fall. Soon, the physical education teachers were called over. Did you take the initiative to intimidate Xiao Chini, or did Gao Shen ask you to intimidate Xiao Chini? The old man came straight to the point and asked directly. Xiao Chini's performance just now made him very satisfied. Now, in the old man's heart, Xiao Chini was just like an old generation of revolutionary pioneers. How could such a person lie? What threats? The physical education teachers who were called over were obviously confused and had no idea what the old man meant. Director Yang is asking you, when you were just in the political education office hearing about Xiao Chenyi's punishment, did you take the initiative to participate, or did Director Gao Xing ask you to participate? Seeing that the physical education teachers didn't understand, Principal Wang Qi kindly explained. However, his explanation sounded like it was still about the same issue, but it had nothing to do with the substantive content or intimidation. It was Director Gao Xing who asked us to come here. He said that if Xiao Chenyi dared to take action, we should come together to stop him. After hearing what the physical education teacher said, the old man slammed the table in anger. This is not intimidation, this is a gang fight. It's outrageous, really outrageous. Each of you should go back and write a profound self-examination. After you finish writing, come back to class. Although the physical education teachers still didn't quite understand what was going on, they all agreed to leave. What about you guys? I heard someone saw you crying as you came out of Gao Sheng's office. What happened? Hearing that the old man finally asked about them, Tang Chuqiu, Song Yu and Lin Zhizhou, as Xiao Chenyi had instructed, did not answer a word and burst into tears. When the old man saw this scene, he used his imagination to make up a story. Don't cry, I didn't do anything to you. At this time, Director Gao Xing was also anxious. He said that he had made things difficult for Xiao Chenyi and intimidated Xiao Chenyi. At most, he would be criticized and educated. At most, he would be asked to write a self-criticism like those physical education teachers. But the story of these three little girls is not simple. Therefore, Goldman Sachs hurried to explain and stood up excitedly. Seeing Gao Xing stand up, the three little girls screamed loudly and rushed out of the office regardless of anything. Chapter 21 Baiting. That's enough. The old man slammed the table and shouted loudly. There are so many of us here, and you can act like this. It shows how you acted when you were alone in the office with three girls that day. Just then, the old man's cell phone rang. Hey, okay, I got it. The old man hung up the phone and looked at Director Gao Xing angrily. Gao Xing, tell me yourself, what is the relationship between Gao Xiaowen and Gao Xiaowu, and what is the relationship between them and you? Gao Xiaowen is my son, but I don't know who Gao Xiaowu is. HMPH, a comrade from the Education Bureau called me just now. When Gao Xiaowu entered the school, he filled in your name, Gao Xing, in the father column. Moreover, their class teacher has confirmed that you once attended a parent-teacher conference for the child. Gao Xiaowu's class teacher recognized you at a glance from the many photos. The old man pointed at Gao Xing angrily. Do you have anything else to argue now? After hearing what the old man said, Gao Xing suddenly collapsed and sat on the chair, unable to utter a word. Gao Xing, you have made so many mistakes. Starting tomorrow, you will not be allowed to attend school. As for further punishment for you, you can wait for the notice from the Municipal Education Bureau. After saying this, the old man turned and walked out the door. When he passed by Xiao Chenyi, he patted Xiao Chenyi on the shoulder to show his appreciation. Principal Wang Qi, we will go back too. After Xiao Chenyi said this, he didn't wait for Principal Wang Qi's answer and left with Yin Meng. When I returned to the classroom, my classmates came up to me and asked me questions. Xiao Chenyi, what's going on? Xiao Chenyi, what is the result of Gao Xing? Xiao Chenyi waved his hand, and everyone in the blue house quieted down. Director Yang from the Education Bureau said that Gao Xing will be suspended from all work first. The Education Bureau will announce further disciplinary decisions after discussion. In short, Gao Xing, get out. Oh. Suddenly, there were cheers in the classroom. Time always passes quickly, and a day's study life ends just like that. After experiencing several storms, Xiao Chenyi and Yin Meng finally returned to the Yin family. Uncle Chen had been waiting anxiously. Yin Meng, how are you today? Are you okay? Then, Yin Meng told Uncle Chen what she and Xiao Chenyi had experienced today, and Uncle Chen broke out in a cold sweat. You beat Xie Zhengfei down, threatened Jin Wenle, and finally kicked Gao Xing out of school. Uncle Chen asked again, somewhat incredulously. Uncle Chen, don't blame Xiao Chenyi, How could I blame him? We were the ones who wronged him. This matter had nothing to do with him. I was the one who dragged him into this. How could I blame him now? Besides, these people will be a nuisance sooner or later, it's just a matter of dealing with them sooner or later. Bang! Suddenly, there was a clanging sound from upstairs, which scared Yin Meng. Xiao Chini quickly turned on his X-ray vision and looked upstairs. He saw a man rummaging through drawers in the room. Uncle Chen, is there anyone coming home? Yin Meng asked. Yin Haijiao. While Uncle Chen was answering Yin Meng's question, Xiao Chini had already quickly gone upstairs. Who are you? The man was in the room, rummaging through something. When he saw Xiao Chini, he was startled and asked immediately. Get out of here, this is not the place for you. Now that he already knew that Yin Haijiao had defected to the Jin family, there was no need for Xiao Chini to be polite to Yin Haijiao. Boy, I am Yin Meng's second uncle, and you, her fiancé, who came out of nowhere, are an outsider. Get out of here. Xiao Chini shook his head. Since the man in front of him was unwilling to leave, he could only beat him out himself. Xiao Chini quickly stepped forward, grabbed one of Yin Haijiao's hands, and threw Yin Haijiao to the ground with an over-the-shoulder throw. Then Xiao Chini made a gorgeous turn, knelt on one knee, and stepped on Yin Haijiao's body. I'll ask you again, do you want to get out of here on your own, or do you want me to beat you out of here? Boy, I am a member of this family. The surname of this family is Yin. Xiao Chini stopped talking nonsense with Yin Haijiao and slapped him twice. Then, Xiao Chini punched Yin Haijiao in the stomach several times. Xiao Chini was so strong that after a few punches, Yin Haijiao was completely exhausted. Then, Xiao Chini dragged Yin Haijiao, who was completely exhausted, downstairs. After dragging Yin Haijiao out of the door, Xiao Chini stopped a taxi. Sir, please send this man to the Jin family. Yes, that Jin family. Don't look at him. He is drunk. Also, tell the people of the Jin family not to come here in the future. The driver didn't want to meddle in other people's business, so he took Yin Haijiao away without asking any further questions. Walking back into their house from outside, Xiao Chini said to Uncle Chen. Uncle Chen, Yin Haijiao has already joined the Jin family. Don't let him in from now on. Good. Uncle Chen agreed. Just now he had only heard Yin Meng say how powerful Xiao Chini was, so he was still a little skeptical. But now that he had seen it with his own eyes, he finally believed it completely. Uncle Chen, I'm going to take a shower first. After Xiao Chini said this, he walked into the bathroom. R. The two screams came from Xiao Chini and Yin Meng respectively. Xiao Chini saw something he shouldn't have seen, while Yin Meng remembered that there were still a lot of her things in the bathroom. Yin Meng rushed into the bathroom, picked up her panties and bra, and ran away. After a brief surprise, Xiao Chini laughed out loud as he watched Yin Meng fleeing. What are you laughing at? Yin Meng glared at Xiao Chini, then drove Xiao Chini out of the bathroom. This bathroom on the west side is for you and Uncle Chen, and this bathroom is mine. Xiao Chini looked at the bathroom on the west side. Its style was exactly the same as the previous one. However, sharing the same bathroom with Uncle Chen and Yin Meng always leaves a little room for imagination. However, Xiao Chini did not raise any objections and turned around and went into the bathroom on the west side. To be honest, although Xiao Chini is the king of soldiers, he had to fight several difficult battles in a row today, which was quite exhausting for him. After taking a shower and having dinner with Yin Meng and the others, Xiao Chini prepared to go to his room to sleep. The room he walked towards was the room where Yin Meng had slept last night. Chapter 22 Cherish. Xiao Chini was about to enter the room when Yin Meng grabbed him. What are you doing? I fought several battles today and now I'm very tired. I need to rest. However, Xiao Chini's words did not impress Yin Meng. Yin Meng blocked the door of her room and looked at Xiao Chini with unfriendly eyes. This is my room. Oh. Xiao Chini seemed not to understand what Yin Meng said and continued to walk into the room. Hey, I said this is my room, you can't go in. Yin Meng refused to give in and continued to block the door. Didn't I sleep here last night? Xiao Chini looked at Yin Meng and asked. There were special circumstances last night. Yin Meng answered. What special circumstances? If you let me in, I promise I will just go into sleep and will never touch you. No. Yin Meng's attitude was very firm. She refused to let Xiao Chini sleep in her room. Then tell me, where should I sleep? You let me share the bathroom with Uncle Chen, and as for sleeping, You won't let me share the same one with Uncle Chen, will you? Puff. Yin Meng was amused by Xiao Chenyi's words. Letting Xiao Chenyi and Uncle Chen sleep together was funny, not to mention the two parties involved. Even Yin Meng found it funny just to think about it. Wait a minute, I'll go clean up the guest room for you. Okay, then hurry up. Xiao Chenyi was really helpless and finally had to agree. Hearing that Xiao Chenyi finally agreed, Yin Meng breathed a sigh of relief and went to clean up the guest room. However, the Yin family is a large family after all, and Yin Meng has been spoiled since childhood. It is because the family is in decline now that there is only one servant, Uncle Chen, in the family. Yin Meng had lived in such an environment since she was a child. She had never done housework or cleaned the guest rooms. So, 1 hour after another passed, and Yin Meng still hadn't cleaned up the guest room. Xiao Chenyi was so sleepy that he walked into Yin Meng's room, climbed onto the bed, fell asleep. After a few more hours, Yin Meng finally cleaned up the guest room. Yin Meng clapped his hands and was very satisfied looking at the guest room that he had cleaned up so neatly. All right. Yin Meng shouted, but no one answered her. At that moment, Yin Meng became confused and went outside, but she couldn't find Xiao Chenyi anywhere. Just when Yin Meng was extremely confused and wondering where Xiao Chenyi had gone, Yin Meng suddenly thought of this possibility. Immediately, Yin Meng rushed into her room and saw Xiao Chenyi lying on her bed, asleep. This time, Yin Meng was angry. She spent so much time and effort to help you clean up the guest room, but you still slept in my room. So, Yin Meng rolled up his sleeves and prepared to call Xiao Chenyi out of bed. However, when Yin Meng approached Xiao Chenyi, she caught a glimpse of several bruises on Xiao Chenyi's arms out of the corner of her eye. He was injured. Could it be because of me? He was really tired when he said that. Yes, he fought with so many people for me today. How could he not be tired? It's all my fault. Xiao Chenyi was so tired, why did I have to spend so much time cleaning the guest room? Then let him sleep here tonight. I'll go to the guest room. Yin Meng was thinking a lot in her heart and blamed herself deeply. Finally, Yin Meng went back to the guest room to sleep, leaving her room to Xiao Chenyi. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, several hours had passed. Xiao Chenyi was sleeping soundly in his dream, but suddenly he faintly heard the sound of a girl crying. Xiao Chenyi opened his hazy eyes and looked out the window. It was pitch black and it was obviously still the middle of the night. Xiao Chenyi pricked up his ears and listened quietly. This time, Xiao Chenyi was sure that there was indeed a girl crying and he was not dreaming. And in the Yin family, there was only one girl, Yin Meng, who was obviously crying. Xiao Chenyi quickly put on his clothes, looked in the direction of the sound, and approached Yin Meng little by little. Finally, Xiao Chenyi came to the outside of the guest room and saw Uncle Chen there. Uncle Chen. Xiao Chenyi called out softly. Well, you heard it, too. Xiao Chenyi nodded. You go in and comfort Yin Meng. It's easier for you young people to communicate. As an old man, I don't know what to say. Xiao Chenyi nodded again. Xiao Chenyi looked at Uncle Chen. This old man had worked for the Yin family all his life and had deep feelings for the Yin family. After the Yin family fell into decline, all the other servants chose to leave, but Uncle Chen was the only one who chose to stay and take care of Yin Meng. Now, hearing Yin Meng crying in the middle of the night, Uncle Chen couldn't sleep either. Although he didn't know what to do, Uncle Chen chose to stand outside the door and quietly accompany Yin Meng. At this moment, Xiao Chenyi indeed felt a sense of admiration for Uncle Chen. Opening the door of the guest room, Xiao Chenyi walked into the room gently. At this moment, Yin Meng was covering herself in the quilt and crying. Xiao Chenyi came to the bed, sat down, and gently, little by little, moved Yin Meng's head out from under the quilt. What's wrong? Xiao Chenyi asked with concern. I just had a dream. I dreamed about my parents. Yin Meng said with a sob. Xiao Chenyi rested Yin Meng's head on his shoulder and comforted her gently. After listening to Xiao Chenyi's comfort, Yin Meng finally calmed down little by little. Then, Yin Meng just leaned on Xiao Chenyi's shoulder and fell asleep. Xiao Chenyi didn't dare to move, he just hoped that Yin Meng could sleep until dawn. At this moment, Xiao Chenyi understood one thing. During the day, Yin Meng pretended that nothing had happened. She was bright and cheerful, and would joke about herself and teacher Xiaolan from time to time. It turned out that all of this was fake, and was just an act by Yin Meng. Suddenly, she lost both her parents, and her heart was in great pain. However, this strong girl chose to smile to everyone during the day, and hide in the quilt and cry quietly at night. Suddenly, Xiaoquni felt a little more pity for Yin Meng. At this moment, Xiaoquni suddenly had a strong desire to protect her. He wanted to protect Yin Meng and never let her get hurt again. Looking at the starry sky, Xiaoquni seemed to see the Jin family. In order to compete for the 10th place on the family rich list, they killed Yin Meng's parents in a car accident. Xiaoquni clenched his fists. He must take revenge for this pitiful girl beside him. Chapter 23 Kidnapping. Time flies, and soon it is dawn. Yin Meng opened her hazy eyes and glanced at Xiaoquni beside her. He slept comfortably now, but he caused great harm to Xiaoquni. Last night, Xiaoquni fell asleep like this, half leaning on the edge of the bed, and Xiaoquni had to keep his body still to prevent Yin Meng from being woken up by him. I don't know if it was a coincidence or Xiaoquni had actually woken up a long time ago, but when Yin Meng opened her eyes and moved her head away from Xiaoquni's shoulder, Xiaoquni also opened his eyes. Woke up! Woke up! Xiaoquni and Yin Meng said this almost at the same time, and both of them felt a little embarrassed. Har har har, this is the second time. In order to ease the embarrassment, Xiaoquni got off the bed, repeating this sentence over and over again. What second time? This is the second time I've slept with you. You? When Yin Meng heard what Xiaoquni said, she felt embarrassed and annoyed, but she really couldn't find any words to refute. When the two went downstairs, Uncle Chen had already prepared all the food and was waiting for Xiaoquni and Yin Meng. While eating, Yin Meng couldn't help her curiosity. In fact, she had planned to ask this question last night, but she had never found a suitable opportunity. Xiaoquni, how did you get to know Principal Wang Qi? Xiaoquni smiled and did not hide anything. When was Principal Wang Qi transferred here? Last year. Oh, does his shoulder still hurt? Yin Meng shook her head, not knowing what Xiaoquni was talking about. In the past, Principal Wang Qi taught in mountainous areas. Did you know this? Yin Meng still shook her head. Oh, this Wang Qi is very low-key. Xiaoquni picked up a piece of bread on the table and stuffed it into his mouth. You know about the big earthquake in southern China last year? Wang Qi was teaching there. In order to protect his students, Wang Qi held them under his body, and a reinforced concrete slab was pressed on Wang Qi's left hand at that time. Yin Meng covered her mouth when she heard this. The big earthquake in southern central and southern China last year shocked the whole country. How could Yin Meng not know about it? However, Yin Meng did not expect that her principal was also a hero in the earthquake. At that time, I was a soldier and was also sent to the earthquake relief work. I was the one who rescued your principal, Wang Qi. Xiaoquni took another bite of bread. When I was rescuing your principal Wang Qi, an aftershock occurred. The superior ordered the soldiers who were rescuing him to withdraw first. But at that time, there were still several cement slabs on Wang Qi's head. If I had withdrawn at that time, Wang Qi might have been injured again. Xiaoquni paused here, took a sip of milk, and then continued. During the aftershock, I turned my back to Wang Qi and held onto the concrete slabs tightly. Fortunately, Wang Qi and I were both lucky, and the concrete slabs did not fall down. In this way, Wang Qi and I became friends who would last a lifetime. Yin Meng nodded. Xiaoquni said it very easily, but when Yin Meng recalled the scene of the earthquake that she saw on TV, she could imagine how dangerous Xiaoquni's behavior was at that time. Why did you do that then? Other people's lives are more important than your own life. Xiaoquni replied. Other people's lives are more important than your own life. Yin Meng also repeated this sentence. This was the second time Yin Meng heard this sentence. The first time was in Wang Qi's office when Xiaoquni said it to Director Yarn. At that time, Yin Meng thought that Xiaoquni said that on purpose. Now, Yin Meng realized that she was wrong and Xiaoquni would really do that. And Yin Meng thought back, when Xiaoquni said this, Principal Wang Qi was indeed a little different. Now it seems that everything can be explained clearly. Ding dong. At this moment, the doorbell suddenly rang outside the door. I'll open the door. Yin Meng said. Sit down. Xiaoquni shouted loudly. I'll go open it. Xiaoquni stood up, walked to the door, and opened it little by little. Xiaoquni looked outside, and there was no one there. What was going on? Xiaoquni looked again, but still didn't find anyone. At this moment, Xiaoquni caught a glimpse of an envelope under his feet. Xiao Chini picked up the envelope, closed the door, and went back into their house. You are too careful. Seeing Xiao Chini coming back, Yin Meng said. It's better to be careful, so that nothing happens to your family again. What happened? Didn't something happen a while ago? You're talking about my parents. You mean, there's something wrong with my parents' car accident? Xiao Chini looked at Yin Meng. He didn't expect that Yin Meng was so smart. He just mentioned it slightly, and Yin Meng had already guessed some clues. However, regarding the car accident involving Yin Meng's parents, Xiao Chini only had some guesses and no substantial evidence, so Xiao Chini did not dare to make a conclusion. I don't know, Yin Meng, but please rest assured that I will help you investigate this matter. Yin Meng nodded. She was not the kind of person who would ignore others. She believed in Xiao Chini. Who was that just now? No one, just this letter. Having said that, Xiao Chini opened the letter. The content of the letter is very simple. Leave the Yin family and don't interfere in this matter again, otherwise, I will make everyone around you disappear one by one. This time it's Lin Maimai, who will be the next one. Xiao Chini put away the letter, clenched his fists, and his eyes were red. These bastards, Lin Maimai and I don't even know each other, she just said a few words for me yesterday, and they. Did they kill sister Lin Maimai? When Xiao Chini was reading the letter, Yin Meng also saw the contents of the letter, so she was also worried. It should just be kidnapping, not murder, but I'm going to save her. Yin Meng nodded. If it weren't for her, Xiao Chini wouldn't have been taken to the police station yesterday. Then, Lin Maimai wouldn't have been kidnapped just because she said a few good words for Xiao Chini. Uncle Chen, do you have a cell phone? When Uncle Chen heard what Xiao Chini said, he took out his old-fashioned mobile phone from his pocket and smiled embarrassedly. Can I use an elderly phone? I'm old. I don't know how to use your phones, and I can't read the words on them clearly. Okay. Xiao Chini took the phone and dialed a number. Hello, it's me, Qianlong. Help me prepare a few micro-positioning systems. I want the best ones. Don't fool me. You know I'm an expert. Also, let me use your car. Chapter 24 Burning Documents. After making this call, Xiao Chini dialed another number. Hello, Wang Qi, it's me, Xiao Chini. I have something to do today, so I won't be attending class. I'm not asking you for leave, I'm just telling you to ask the security guards at your school to keep watch over the school gate. If you let irrelevant people into the school again, tell them to be careful. One more thing, go pick up Yin Meng at noon and have lunch with her. I'll leave her safety at school to you. After hanging up the phone, Xiao Chini returned the phone to Uncle Chen. Uncle Chen, stay home and don't go out. Uncle Chen nodded, and he seemed to have realized the danger of this matter. Yin Meng, I'll take you to school first. Please ask for leave for me. If anyone embarrasses you in school, ask Han Leshan and the others to go find Principal Wang Qi. Also, Principal Wang Qi will pick you up for lunch at noon, and I'll pick you up in the evening. Don't leave the school gate before I come. Yin Meng nodded obediently, then looked at Xiao Chini. Who is it that what you are going to do today is not very dangerous? Xiao Chini shook his head. Don't worry, it's okay. I'm a special forces soldier. Have you forgotten? Although Yin Meng didn't say anything else, she knew that what Xiao Chini was going to do today was definitely not as easy as he said. Even when facing the sudden earthquake that shocked the whole country last year, Xiao Chini talked about it as if nothing had happened. So, even if what he was going to do today was dangerous, he probably wouldn't say it. After sending Yin Meng to school, Xiao Chini looked at the time, and then quickly walked to the police station he had visited yesterday. Xiao Chini went from office to office, but indeed he did not see any trace of Lin Maimai. Then, Xiao Chini went directly to the office of the chief of Zhongxing police station. Seeing that Director Zhongxing's office door was closed, Xiao Chini kicked the door open and walked into Director Zhongxing's office. The big commotion Xiao Chini made naturally attracted other police officers in the police station immediately. Who are you? Immediately, among the policemen who came over, a female police officer who was quite pretty asked. Let Zhongxing come over. Please get out. The female police officer repeated it again. Xiao Chini no longer looked at the female police officer, but took out a lighter and a document from the table. Bang! Xiao Chini lit the document with a lighter and then said. You'd better get Zhongxing here quickly. From now on, I will light a document every minute until Zhongxing comes here. Take it. After hearing what Xiaoquni said, the female police officer finally got angry. Immediately, she gave an order and 2 male police officers rushed out from behind the female police officer. However, just as the 2 male policemen rushed out, they were stopped by Xiaoquni's throat-grabbing force. This time, the female police officer was a little scared. With a chokehold, she restrained 2 policemen at the same time. It was probably self-evident how strong the man in front of her was. When the 2 policemen were almost unable to kick him, Xiaoquni finally let go. Xiaoquni ignored the 2 policemen who were struggling to breathe. He picked up the lighter on the table, handed over a document, and started burning it again. You better hurry up. Xiaoquni was kind enough to remind them. Seeing this scene, the female police officer quickly took out her cell phone and called Director Zhongxing. Xiaoquni became the chief of the police station, but he didn't even look at the policeman. He just looked at his watch. Then, burn a file every minute. Sir, I have already called our Director Zhong. Can you please stop burning it? Xiaoquni then raised his head and glanced at the female police officer, then he turned his gaze to his watch. It's not me who decides how many documents to burn. It's your Director Zhongxing who decides. If he doesn't come today, I don't mind burning all the documents you have here. The female police officer had no choice but to call Chief Zhongxing again, urging him to come over quickly. You don't have to look at me like that. I believe all the files here are backed up in your computers. So, even if I really burn all the files, you will just waste some time. Having said that, Xiaoquni raised his head, glanced at the female police officer, and then said, You and Zhongxing have a special relationship, right? You clearly called Zhongxing just now, but the number displayed on your phone is 10086. Also, the 3-hour call record between you and Zhongxing last night clearly showed that you were discussing some important case. Of course, these things were all seen by Xiaoquni after he opened his X-ray vision. After hearing what Xiaoquni said, the other policemen couldn't help but want to laugh out loud, but they forced themselves to hold it back. You? The female police officer was suddenly so ashamed that she didn't know what to say. Fortunately, at this time, Director Zhongxing arrived. Where is Lin Maimai? When Xiaoquni saw Zhongxing coming in, he immediately asked. What's going on? Zhongxing looked at the female police officer and asked. Zhongxing came in and asked the policewoman without asking anyone else. Xiaoquni had just said something like that, and the policewoman was instantly embarrassed. But Zhongxing didn't know about this situation, so the policewoman still had to answer. He's looking for you. He said if you don't come, he'll burn a document in your office every minute. If you don't come today, he'll burn your entire office. I saw who it was, and just threatened me like this, and I shot him. When Zhongxing heard what the female police officer said, he immediately became angry. However, when Zhongxing turned around and saw Xiaoquni sitting in his seat, he was stunned for a moment. Har har, what's going on? Director Zhong is going to shoot me for the second time. Is there any bullet in Director Zhong's gun this time? As Xiaoquni had activated his X-ray vision, he certainly knew whether there were bullets in Zhongxing's gun. Yes, there are bullets in Zhongxing's gun, and the magazine is full. Therefore, Xiaoquni became a little cautious this time and no longer dared to be as arrogant as he was yesterday. Xiaoquni, humph, this time, there are bullets in my gun. Xiaoquni smiled coldly. Director Zhong, you should know about Director Gao Shin's situation. If you don't want this to be the end, you'd better tell me what I want to know. Chapter 25 Lin Meimei's whereabouts. You all go out. Director Gao Shin waved his hand and asked everyone to go out. Director Gao. Everyone went out, except the female police officer, who was still standing there, looking a little worried. Just now, Xiaoquni alone choked 2 policemen by the throat and made them unable to move. The female police officer saw it. Therefore, the female police officer was still a little worried about the private conversation between Xiaoquni and Director Gao Shen. Go out, don't worry, I'll be fine. The policewoman hesitated for a moment, but finally retreated. The reason why Gao Shen likes her is because she is obedient and never meddles in other people's affairs. Just now Gao Shen asked them all to go out, and he asked, which was a kind of concern, but if he said anything more now, it would be talkative and would make the man feel annoyed. What do you want to do? After seeing that everyone had left, Director Gao Xing asked about Xiao Chenyi. What exactly do I want to do? Don't you, Director Gao Xing, know? I have no idea. Xiao Chenyi chuckled, stood up, and kicked the bottom drawer on Director Zhang Xing's desk. So, the lock on the drawer was kicked broken by Xiao Chenyi. Xiao Chenyi bent down and took out a few packs of expensive cigarettes from the drawer. Director Zhang Xing, your living conditions are very good. Apart from what's in this drawer, is there anything else in this office? As he spoke, Xiao Chenyi pointed suggestively at the trash can in the corner not far away that had never attracted much attention. Besides the office, is there any other place in Director Zhang Xing's home? Do you want me to go to Director Zhang Xing's home to look for him, or should I report it to your superiors and ask them to go to your home to look for him? Director Zhang Xing's face was stiff. He looked at Xiao Chenyi with hatred in his heart, but he didn't know what to do. Director Zhang Xing, people die for money, birds die for food. You don't have to protect the Jin family so much. The Jin family's money, after all, belongs to the Jin family. Look, Director Gao Xing has fallen. Did the Jin family say anything? Did they desperately protect Director Gao Xing, or did they kick him away, as if they were giving up a pawn? Xiao Chenyi was once a king of soldiers. He was very experienced in how to pry open a prisoner's mouth. He was familiar with the weaknesses of human nature and knew what they feared most. Therefore, Xiao Chenyi kept hinting to Director Zhang Xing that if Director Gao Xing fell, the Jin family would choose to give up Director Gao Xing. So if it was Director Zhang Xing who fell today, what choice would the Jin family make? I'm afraid it would be the same. As expected, after listening to Xiao Chenyi's words, Director Zhang Xing fell into deep confusion and he didn't know what to do. Director Zhang Xing, you and I originally had no grudges against each other. The only conflict between you and me was the Jin family. Now, tell me the whereabouts of Lin Maimai. Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for you. From now on, you can rest assured that I will never make things difficult for you, Director Zhang Xing. After seeing Director Zhang Xing, Xiao Chenyi knew that there was hope for this matter, so he immediately took advantage of the victory and continued to destroy Director Zhang Xing's will, which was almost on the verge of collapse. Director Zhang Xing, as the saying goes, every wrong has its perpetrator, every debt has its creditor. I have no grudge against you, so why should I embarrass you? I have always been targeting the Jin family. As long as you tell me Lin Maimei's whereabouts, I will never embarrass you. But if you don't want to tell me now, then I will definitely treat you like I treated Director Gao Xing. Just think about how the Jin family will treat you if you fall in the future. Stop talking, stop talking. I'll tell you everything. Hearing Director Zhang Xing's words, Xiao Chenyi secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Although Xiao Chenyi is familiar with the weaknesses of human nature, if Director Zhang Xing in front of him is really unwilling to reveal Lin Maimei's whereabouts, then Xiao Chenyi really has no choice. Xiao Chenyi, have you heard of Plum Blossom Manor? Xiao Chenyi nodded. It was unclear whether this meant that Xiao Chenyi knew about Maihua Manor or that Xiao Chenyi wanted Director Zhang Xing to continue. The last time you saw Xie Jingfei, he was from Plum Blossom Manor. The Jin family has a close relationship with Plum Blossom Manor. Lin Maimai was captured by the people from Plum Blossom Manor. Where is Plum Blossom Manor? I have no idea. Zhang Xing shook his head. Director Zhang Xing, since you've already said it, why don't you tell us everything? Why are you hiding some of it? Xiao Chenyi stood up and walked slowly to Director Zhang Xing. Zhang Xing still shook his head. Xiao Chenyi acted quickly and snatched the gun from Director Zhang Xing's waist. Xiao Chenyi held a gun and pointed it at Chief Zhang Xing's head. Xiao Chenyi, I really don't know. You should know that I'm not a hero. I'm just a coward who is afraid of death. If I knew, I would definitely tell you. Xiao Chenyi put down the gun and returned it to Director Zhang Xing. So what should I do now? You can look for Xie Jingfei. He is from Plum Blossom Manor and he must know where the manor's nest is. If you find the manor's nest, you will definitely be able to find Lin Maimai. Xiao Chenyi nodded and strode towards the door. It seems that the Jin family is very careful in doing things. Lin Maimai is Director Zhang Xing's subordinate. Even Director Zhang Xing does not know the specific location where the Jin family kidnapped Lin Maimai. Xiao Chenyi walked out of Director Zhang Xing's office and happened to see the female police officer not far away. Xiao Chini smiled coldly and said something as he walked past the female police officer. Don't worry, as long as what Zhongxing said is true, I won't tell anyone about the two of you. But if Zhongxing dares to lie to me, I will make you two pay 1,000 times the price. After hearing what Xiao Chini said, the female police officer was shocked and quickly walked into Zhongxing's office. Captain Zhong, who exactly is this Xiao Chini? Judging from his skills, he is even better than our police. What he does seems to be upright, but his style is full of banditry. Zhongxing looked at the policewoman and shook his head. I don't know either. Have you used the public security system to check him? Zhongxing nodded. This Xiao Chini, he offended the Jin family. Yesterday, Jin Hongyuan asked me to use the public security system to check him, but I found nothing. In fact, this is not surprising at all. Xiao Chini was once the captain of the Qianlong Special Forces. People like him no longer have names in the public security system, and only have the code name Qianlong. However, Director Zhongxing obviously does not have the authority to find the code name Qianlong. Chapter 26 Flying Dragon. Walking out of the police station, Xiao Chini breathed a sigh of relief. This matter originally had nothing to do with Lin Maimai, but she was dragged into it because of me. Moreover, Lin Maimai once openly disobeyed Zhongxing's orders for me. From this point of view, Lin Maimai has done me a favor. So, no matter from which perspective, I must rescue Lin Maimai. Xiao Chini thought so in his heart. Plum Blossom Manor. Xiao Chini silently repeated these three words. Chinese martial arts are profound and extensive. In ancient times, martial arts schools developed to a very high level. However, in modern times, with the emergence of hot weapons, Chinese martial arts seem to have declined, and there are no longer martial arts masters around people. But Xiao Chini knew that Chinese martial arts had always existed, and now, with the development of science and technology, those who practiced martial arts had more formal and scientific training. In fact, Chinese martial arts had developed better than in ancient times. But the reason why there are no people practicing martial arts around people is because of the Alliance Leader's order issued decades ago. The leader is the martial arts leader who often appears in novels and movies. Many people think that the martial arts leader is a product of novels and movies and does not exist at all, or they think that the martial arts leader only existed in ancient times and there is no martial arts leader in modern times, but they are wrong. The leader of the martial arts world has always existed, just as Chinese martial arts have always existed. However, for some unknown reason, decades ago, the then leader of the martial arts world, Xiao Longhu, suddenly issued such an order. All martial artists must retire and not take part in worldly disputes. If any martial artists want to integrate into society or the city, they are not allowed to expose or use martial arts. After this order was issued, no martial artists appeared in the eyes of ordinary people anymore. But decades later, Xiao Chini did not expect that Plum Blossom Manor would appear again. This was a blatant challenge to the authority of the leader of the martial arts world. What exactly happened in the Chinese martial arts world that caused Plum Blossom Village, which had disappeared for so many years, to reappear? Xiao Chini was not clear about these things, and he did not have time to figure them out now. His goal was to successfully rescue Lin Maimai. Outside the police station, Xiao Chini hailed a taxi and went to Jinying Street in Donghai City. A commercial street specializing in wholesale of small commodities, with a mixed crowd of all kinds. To say that Golden Eagle Street is a commercial street is really giving it a bit of a compliment. There are dozens of shops of different sizes on Golden Eagle Street. Although they are shops, judging from their size, decoration, furniture, cleanliness, etc., these shops can be called street stalls. Xiao Chini came to Golden Eagle Street and walked slowly on the street. Every time Xiao Chini passed by a store, there would be one or two businessmen greeting him. However, Xiao Chini didn't have time to care about those people, he just walked on his own. As he walked, Xiao Chini finally stopped in front of a watch shop. Here I come. Inside the watch shop, there was a sturdy middle-aged man who was repairing a broken clock. When he heard someone passing in front of his shop, he looked up like the other shop owners. When he saw that the person was Xiao Chini, he forced the words he said to attract business to turn into "Here you come." Well, here I come. Is my stuff ready? The middle-aged man stopped what he was doing and looked around. Come in. Xiao Chini also looked around vigilantly. After making sure that there was nothing unusual, Xiao Chini walked into the watch shop. The middle-aged man saw Xiao Chini coming in, and then he pulled down the shutter door. Xiaochini followed the middle-aged man and walked into the inner room. Help me. Good. Xiaochini and the middle-aged man worked together to push open the bed in the inner room, revealing a large underground secret room. Filong, I still don't understand. There are so many people coming and going on Golden Eagle Street. How did you dig such a hole? Xiaochini looked at the underground secret room, sighed, and then asked the middle-aged man next to him a question. Secret. The middle-aged man laughed and said only 2 words. Go down. Good. Then, Xiaochini followed the middle-aged man named Filong and entered the underground secret room. Filong opened a box on the table in the underground secret room. Micro-positioning systems, how many do you want? Xiaochini thought about it for a moment and then said. Give me 5 first. If you need more, I'll come back for more. Good. As he spoke, Filong took out 5 micro-positioning systems and handed them to Xiaochini. Next, here are the 5 micro-positioning systems. This is their host. You should know how to operate it. Also, here is the car you want. Here are the keys. The car is in the parking lot outside, space 7. Xiaochini took the thing Filong handed over and smiled. Number 7, do you still like this number so much? Of course, don't forget, I am the Qianlong Special Forces, the eternal number 007. By the way, I heard that something happened to you in the army. Xiaochini pursed his lips and smiled slightly. Do you believe it? Filong shook his head and said only 2 words. No. Thanks. Why are you thanking me? We have become strangers. Tell me, what happened this time? Who has offended you again? As Filong spoke, he took out a military knife and a special-looking mobile phone from another box and handed them to Xiaochini. Nothing, just a few little guys. Do you need me to come with you? Filong obviously has a very good relationship with Xiaochini. He was a little worried about Xiaochini suddenly taking the micro-positioning system from him. Why, you're worried about me? There's nothing to worry about. It's just that we are all military men, and guns are our greatest weapon. But you suddenly left the army and left your guns behind. I'm afraid you won't be used to it. Xiaochini took the saber and the mobile phone, put the mobile phone directly into his pocket, and looked at the saber carefully. Don't worry, don't you still have it? Xiaochini raised the saber in his hand and said as if jokingly. After saying that, Xiaochini was the first to climb up from the underground secret room. Soon after, Filong followed. I'm leaving. After helping Filong move the bed back to its original position, Xiaochini said goodbye and left. Be careful, brother. Looking at Xiaochini's back getting farther and farther away, Filong muttered softly. Chapter 27 Shi Zhengfei's Woman. Arriving at the garage on Golden Eagle Street and finding the car at parking spot number 7, Xiaochini drove away from Golden Eagle Street. At this moment, Xiaochini was heading to the place where Shi Zhengfei lived, which was given to him by director Zhang Shen. What Filong lent to Xiaochini was a bright red sports car. The car is beautiful and the speed is very fast. Xiaochini was driving the sports car while observing the situation inside the car. The interior of the car is well maintained, just like the exterior of the car, without a single scratch. Filong is such a careful person. This car is so shiny that there is not even a speck of dust. That's right, for someone with obsessive-compulsive disorder like him, how could there be any dust in the car? The sports car sped away and soon arrived in front of an old residential area. This kind of old-style residential area is considered a relatively poor place in Donghai City. Therefore, when Xiaochini's beautiful sports car stopped here, it immediately attracted onlookers. However, Xiaochini does not have much time to deal with these people now. Xiaochini took 2 steps at a time and rushed towards an apartment building in the old neighborhood. Who is this person? A middle-aged woman whose clothes were a little worn out but washed very cleanly asked. I don't know, this car is so beautiful. Next to the middle-aged woman, a child was laughing and talking, and was about to touch Xiaochini's sports car with his bare hands. Don't touch it. If you break it, you won't be able to pay for it even if I sell you off. However, at this moment, the middle-aged woman who had just spoken immediately stopped the child's behavior. Moreover, the middle-aged woman hit the child hard several times and then left with the child in her arms. This scene also caused laughter from the people around. Xiaochini's goal was to reach the 3rd floor of an apartment in an old residential area. Climbing 3 flights of stairs was nothing to Xiao Chini. Soon, Xiao Chini arrived at the 3rd floor and identified the direction. Xiao Chini began to look for one house number after another. After searching for a while, Xiao Chini stopped in front of a room. Standing in front of the door, Xiao Chini, with his sensitive hearing, vaguely heard a whisper and a shy woman's voice coming from inside the room. Xiao Chini suddenly felt doubtful, so he opened his eyes of perspective. Then, Xiao Chini saw through the door that Xie Zhengfei was lying on a woman, working hard. Xiao Chini kicked the door open, which scared Xie Zhengfei and the woman who were working hard in the room. Xie Zhengfei lay on the woman, feeling a little impatient. He turned his head to look outside the door. When he saw that the person rushing in was Xiao Chini, his hair stood on end instantly. Yesterday, at Dawnhigh Middle School, the scenes of how Xiao Chini subdued him with one hand and knocked all his men to the ground with just one hand all flashed through Xie Zhengfei's mind. What are you going to do? Xie Zhengfei was extremely scared at this moment. However, Xiao Chini didn't even give Xie Zhengfei time to be afraid. Xiao Chini rushed up quickly and pulled Xie Zhengfei off the woman. Then, Xiao Chini suddenly kicked Xie Zhengfei in the stomach. Xie Zhengfei was doing something just now and now he had no clothes on. After being kicked in the stomach by Xiao Chini, Xie Zhengfei suddenly felt that his liver, lungs, spleen, kidneys and other things in his stomach were all entangled together. Xiao Chini, what do you want to do? Xie Zhengfei's body moved on the ground for a distance, then hit the wall hard before stopping. Both of you, kneel down and answer a few questions for me. Xie Zhengfei raised his head and looked at Xiao Chini, and was about to say, a gentleman can be killed but not humiliated, but when he met Xiao Chini's gaze, he quickly took back his words. Xiao Chini's eyes seemed to come from the underworld, like the king of hell, which frightened Xie Zhengfei terribly. At this moment, how could he dare to say such words to Xiao Chini again? Xie Zhengfei stood up and prepared to put on his clothes. I asked you to kneel down, not to put on clothes. Xiao Chini said coldly. What about her? Xie Zhengfei looked at Xiao Chini fiercely, then pointed at the woman and asked. Hearing Xie Zhengfei's words, Xiao Chini suddenly felt happy. Xiao Chini once studied micropsychology in order to interrogate the enemies. Although his learning was average, Xiao Chini could still guess some things through some unintentional actions of others. And what Xie Zhengfei said just now shows that Xie Zhengfei cares about the woman in front of him. Originally, Xiao Chini thought that the woman in front of him should be the kind of woman that Xie Zhengfei called from somewhere. But now it seems that it shouldn't be the case. If it was that kind of woman, in a situation where his own life was threatened, Xie Zhengfei would not care whether the woman was wearing clothes or not. And now that Xie Zhengfei cares about this woman, it means that this woman has a close relationship with Xie Zhengfei. At least, it is not a simple business relationship. Kneel down. Xiao Chini, I am a bad guy, but you are a good guy. How can you let a woman kneel on the ground without clothes? Xiao Chini took out his military knife and threw it onto a table in the room. Then, the saber was firmly fixed on the table to show how sharp it was. When did I ever say I'm a good person? If you want me to be a good person, just tell me everything I want to know. Otherwise, I will use this knife to scrape off the flesh of this woman layer by layer. You dare? Xie Zhengfei was also a little excited when he heard what Xiao Chini said. Xiao Chini walked to the table, picked up the bayonet, then walked back to the bed and grabbed the woman's hair. Xiao Chini put the weapon in his hand directly on the woman's face. The cold iron object touched the woman's skin, and the woman screamed immediately. Har har har, what would it feel like if this knife cut off the flesh on this woman's face layer by layer, and then poked dozens or hundreds of holes in her body? As Xie Zhengfei listened to Xiao Chini's words, he unconsciously imagined the scene that Xiao Chini described in his mind. Then, Xie Zhengfei finally couldn't stand Xiao Chini's psychological torture on him. I said, don't you just want to know Lin Mei Mei's whereabouts? I'll tell you everything, but you don't hurt her.